along with City Manager Charles Rudd, City Attorney Bobby Pickens, Captain Usry with the Sheriff Department, and Pam Taylor with Code Enforcement. Thank you all for being here, and with that, Commissioner Banks, will give the invitation for us, please. Please stand.
Once again, Father, we come before you to give you thanks and give you praise and to lift up your name. Pray for every individual present tonight, pray for the commission, pray for our citizens, pray for all their loved ones. We ask all this in your son Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
With that, I have a few announcements. Starting with tomorrow morning, the Downtown Partnership is going to do their first coffee with the mayor from 7 to 9 at Sassy Cassie's. It's right down here on Central, or the west end of Central Avenue. And then CCBC is doing Sunset on Stella Saturday evening at 6 p.m. There will be live music and a food truck. That's going to be Crazy Daisies from Jacksonville that will be there performing. Please come out. That's always a nice event. Crescent City Women's Club, they're doing their yard sale April 14th, which is this Saturday. Busy weekend again.
Friday.
Oh, it's Friday. Oh, it's both days, Friday and Saturday. From 8 to 4 on Friday and 8 to 3 on Saturday. They also are having their bingo next Friday evening, starting at 5 o'clock. The Downtown Partnership, sponsored by the Yacht Club, they're doing Movie in the Park, which is going to be Hook, and that's April 21st at Eva Lion Park. We've got our Downtown Partners Spring Fest, which is going to be held at Lake Stella. This is going to replace the art and farmers market we have at the Market Square. They're going to do it down on Lake Stella Park, and that's going to be next Saturday. They're also hosting a low-cost clinic at the Crescent City Kennel, and that will be also that Saturday from 9:30 to 2:30 by appointment only. Call the kennel and they can take care of that. That's sponsored by ARC. The Yacht Club on Saturday, another busy Saturday, is going to have their regatta. This is their first regatta, and it's from 10 to about, 8 o'clock in the evening, probably about sunset, and it's going to be on Lake Stella, and I believe they're putting it at Halley's, is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
IFAS will be doing a class on plants, and that will be on 426 here in the Commission Chambers from 12 to 2. Crescent City CRA and Azalea City Cruisers will be doing an event from 10 to 3, and that's also on that following Saturday, last Saturday, is that correct? Yes. And there will be some cool cars, music vendors, fish fry, food, and fun. That's going to be at Market Square over here. The Downtown Partnership on May 5th, we're excited about this, is also, they're doing the Cinco de Mayo, which is going to be at Eva Lions Park, and it's going to be from 6 to 9 o'clock. And again, that's May 5th, which is actually Cinco de Mayo. And then we've got the Crescent City Women's Club is going to be doing their Native American Intertribal Powwow, Spirit of the Eagle and Hawk, and that's going to benefit the Crescent City Women's Club. That's going to be Friday, May 12th, May 13th, May 14th, and make sure there'll be flyers and there'll be a lot of postings on that. We're very excited about that. A lot of work goes into all of these events, and we're very appreciative of all the hard work that everyone puts into it, and all the volunteers. And so with that, we'll go ahead and start the meeting. I do want to ask before we get started, Mr. Tom Jeffries is here from Gainesville. We have an item on from Florida Gas that if we can take that out of order, and we can do it right after our proclamation, if the commission is okay with that.
I move that we take Mr. Jeffries right after the proclamation.
Right. He's got along with bad weather out there, so anyway. With with that, I'm gonna start with the proclamation. We've got quite a few members, and if y'all want to come on up. Cherie, I'm gonna let you lead the group, come forward. So yeah, let's get everybody in there with the Fruitland Peninsula Historical Society. You want to come to the podium? I'm going to go ahead and read it from here. It might be easier, and then we'll have some pictures taken. Okay, so we're going to start this off as everyone comes forward. The City of Crescent City, the Proclamation 2023-03, Historic Preservation Month. Whereas local historic preservation is an effective tool for revitalizing neighborhoods, fostering local pride, and maintaining community character while enhancing livability. And whereas historic preservation is relevant for communities across the nation, both urban and rural, and for Americans of all ages, all walks of life, and all ethnic backgrounds. And whereas it is important to celebrate the role of history in our lives and the contributions made by dedicated individuals in helping to preserve the tangible aspects of the heritage that has shaped us as a community. And whereas the Fruitland Peninsula Historical Society of Crescent City and other community groups are participating in Historic Preservation Month during May of 2023, and whereas the South Putnam community has embarked upon a new commitment to preservation, historic and archaeological surveys, the nomination of significant cultural resources to the local, state, and national register of historic places, the protection of traditional neighborhoods, the integration of historic elements with redevelopment, and the recognition, rehabilitation, and restoration of historic properties. Now, therefore, I, Michelle Myers, Mayor of the City of Crescent City, Florida, do hereby proclaim May 2023 as Historic Preservation Month, and call upon the residents of Crescent City to join their fellow citizens across the United States in recognizing the importance of preserving the history of communities and participating in this special observance. In witness whereof, I hereunto set my hand and cause the seal of the City of Crescent City, Florida, to be affixed this 13th day of April, 2023. Thank you.
I just want to thank on behalf of the society, the support from the city. As we get ready to gear up for May, 1st of May, banners will be going up. And so you'll be seeing the banners all over town. The signs will be going up. We are involving Malacca this year, so you'll be able to see the signs in Malacca too. And then I just heard tonight, Pomona Park's wanting to jump on board too. So you'll be seeing the signs all over the place.
That's awesome.
We appreciate your support.
And I know last year everyone really enjoyed those signs. They went from spot to spot to spot. I guess I don't get one again this year.
And we are planning on putting some more of this place mattered, because so many of the buildings that were the heart of this town are no longer.
Yeah.
So
I like that. This place mattered.
So you see the empty lot, there was something there at one time.
You know,
Yes.
we just lost one over on Bay this last Friday, unfortunately. Yeah, the church park, yeah. So we lost that. We lost that too. So that'll be another, just when you're doing that, you might want
Yes.
to, so anyway. Well, thank you. We appreciate all you do. You want to get a picture? Oh, yeah. Picture.
So there's 4 of y'all up there, 5 of y'all up there that also members.
Yeah. Okay, let's stand right. Let's, you guys take a picture.
Everybody's getting on the stage.
Just have a picture.
Just be careful of the wires, please.
Yes.
Don't run up the wires.
Let's go over to this way, if everybody can. Hold that. Get all these wires.
Thank you.
Here, hold that.
I'm tall. Come on here. I'm tall.
Okay, everybody.
1, 2, 3. Cheese. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good job.
Everybody, be careful.
Tracking down.
Okay, with that, you want to go ahead with the.
Thank you, Mayor, for taking this item out of order so presenter can get back to, long drive back to Gainesville. Florida Gas Utility has secured a discounted price for us. And I'm just here to give the presentation. We've done this will be our, I believe, our 5th one. So we're taking advantage of a situation where we can buy gas at a discount, and we pass that along to them.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here this evening, and thank you, Mayor, for taking me out of order. So my name is Tom Jeffrey. I'm the General Manager and CEO for Florida Gas Utility. It's a great pleasure to once again be here in front of you tonight, and once again with some potentially very good news that will be able to save you some more money on your natural gas costs. So just a little bit of background on who we are. I think you already know this. I've probably told you this 4 or 5 times already, but we are a not-for-profit municipal joint action agency, and we exist to serve our members. We have 25 municipal members throughout Florida. Crescent City has been a member since 2009. We primarily provide natural gas services, specializing in gas supply and pipeline capacity management, and we've been doing that since 1989, so well over 30 years. And we're one of the largest shippers on the Florida Gas Transmission Pipeline, not Florida Gas Utility, it's a different company. And a shipper is just someone who moves the gas along the pipe. So we move as much, quite a bit of natural gas every day on the pipeline. So I'm here tonight to talk about another discounted natural gas supply opportunity. This is achieved through what's called a prepay transaction. Once again, it does not require any kind of prepayment by the city. You pay as you go in arrears, as you always have. The prepayment takes place up the chain of this transaction. So, but it does not affect us or you in how we pay for the gas that we contract for. It is a 30-year commitment. The city is currently participating in 4 of these deals through us. And the Municipal Gas Authority of Georgia is preparing 2 more transactions, and we're recommending that the volumes that we're recommending that they would be split between those 2 transactions. So that would make it a total of 6 transactions. That's a significant amount of diversity in the level of discounts that you would be able to achieve, as well as the timing for the repricing of the discounts. So the key terms that I want to go over with you this evening, back when we first started on this path of discounted gas, the board of directors for Florida Gas Utility recommended to each of its members that they look at over time getting up to 80% of your average usage having these discounts assigned to them. And you have remaining quantities of 25 decatherms a day in the winter months and 20 decatherms a day in the summer months. Decatherms just happens to be the unit of gas that we buy at a wholesale level. And so it's just basically the unit of gas that we're buying. The minimum discount that we're looking for in these transactions is 45 cents per discount. Just to put that in perspective, today the natural gas prices are at about $2.10 per decatherm. So 45% discount is more than 20% off. Okay. It's pretty significant, very significant. Okay. This discount, the way these transactions are done, they're 30-year commitments, but the discount reprices every 5 to 10 years. We won't know exactly how long the initial period is until the transaction is consummated. We won't know the exact discount either, but we know that it's going to be at least 45 cents. Otherwise, we told the Municipal Gas Authority of Georgia not to do it. But we expect at least 45 cents. One of the deals, different parties priced yesterday, and they got over 60 cents discount. So the market's conducive to getting these discounts. If we get better, if the market produces better discounts, we'll get the better discounts. But we don't want anything less than 45 cents. There are exit clauses in these contracts, the same as in the 4 that you previously have approved, so that if your load goes away, your natural gas load goes away for whatever reason, you get out of the deal, no penalty. So these are risk-free to the city. There really is no risk to you in entering into this transaction. So let's just look at how much you already have and how much the additional amount will get you to, okay? So the existing amount that you have contracted for in the 4 deals is 62 decatherms a day in the winter months, 30 decatherms a day in the summer months, and that represents about 65% of your total historic average consumption. When we add the 25 and the 20, you can see you'll be up to the 80% of your 5-year historical average. And that's where we wanted to get all of our members, and they're all will reach that for those who participate in these 2 transactions. On a dollar perspective, that total annual prepay that you have on the existing 4 deals is 15,780 decatherms a year, and you're saving $9,656. Under this, because the discount's higher, the quantity goes up to 23,837, but your annual savings goes up to 15,635. So no matter what the price of gas is, whether it's $2, whether it's $8, whether it's $4, the savings is 15,635. Because the discount is a known 45 cents or more per decatherm, so it doesn't matter what the market prices are, you're going to get a 45 cent or better discount off of this. Okay? And so that annual savings calculation assumes 45 cents. If it's better than that, that number goes up. Okay? Any questions on that so far?
I do just one.
Um,
Use my ignorance, but and what volume is the decatherm?
Okay. So a decatherm is 1 million BTUs. BTU is a British thermal unit. Right? Okay. So you all probably bill in therms? Yeah. So a therm is 100,000 BTUs. So there's 10 therms in a decatherm. Deca meaning 10. Okay. So we buy at the wholesale level, we're buying in larger quantities. You're selling at the retail level, you're selling at the lower quantities.
Thank you.
Yes. So basically, that's the presentation. We recommend that you authorize the execution of the directives related to this opportunity. This is a good deal for the city. You're in 4 of them already. This will get you 2 more, 6. This will get you up to the 80% of your average usage, which is where the goal that we established, Florida Gas Utility established. You're under no obligation. You can do less than that. You can do more than that. But that's what our board recommended to all of its members. And so with that, I will open it up for any questions you may have.
Commissioner, you have any questions? Mr. Jerry?
It's a good deal.
We take very good care of this.
Yeah, it's always nice to come in and give good news to you.
Commissioner Burton, did you have something? Nope. Okay. Okay.
Are you trying to make a motion?
Charles, it's your recommendation that we accept this, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So there's a continuation motion.
So,
Okay, I have a proper motion and a second. I'm going to go ahead and Karen, will you do roll call for us, please?
Commissioner DeVito,
Aye.
Commissioner Bailey,
Aye.
Commissioner Banks,
aye.
Commissioner Burton,
Aye.
Mayor Myers.
Aye. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much. And again, thank you for moving me up on the agenda.
And we appreciate you. Be safe going on.
I turned it on.
That was worth it.
Absolutely. No doubt about it.
Thank you.
Always happy to be here. And I'm always ready to leave when my time
Okay, with that, you've got, we're going to go forward with the approval of the minutes from the March 9th, 2023.
I move to approve the minutes of the meeting of March 9th, 2023.
Do I have a second?
I second, if necessary, correcting, if any.
Well, she's going to put that in her motion.
Okay. Make a motion to accept or approve the March 9th, 2023 minutes with all corrections included.
I second.
Okay. We have a proper motion and second. Commissioner, do we have any discussion?
I have one item that I think is essential.
Okay.
There are some areas that could be more succinct, but this we need on page 3. Fourth line from the top of the page, this is the summary of the code enforcement rehearing that we did. In the fourth line, it starts with representative says. That's actually said. This sentence is explaining why we're hearing the case. That person was not at the hearing. So says should be said, past tense. And then at the end of the line where it says is requesting, it should just be requested, because that's how the case came before us. It makes it sound like this woman was there. It's not. So fourth line, second word in, said instead of says, and at the end of the line, requested instead of is requesting.
Okay. With that, Commissioners, any further discussion? Okay, I have a proper motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. At this time, we're going to go ahead and open up public comments. If you would, please come forward. You have, Karen will give you 3 minutes, and please state your name and your address if you will. So this is your opportunity. Hello.
Hi, Diane Kelly, 123 Lakeside Lane, Crescent City, Florida. Some of you may have been exposed or heard of the recent hearing that occurred with Ms. Burton and the recall effort. There was a component of the meeting that was quite ambiguous, and the reason why I wanted to speak is to get a little bit of clarity on one item. And this has to do, as many of you know, maybe not all of you, but with literally the city clerk position itself. There was a lot of discussion around whether or not there technically was an individual, meaning a name, a person, actually appointed into this position. So I left the meeting because I actually was in that hearing, and just as an observer, and I left feeling like, gosh, I don't know, it's not clear to me. And I've not seen anything, any of the notes that have been provided from our meeting, or the meetings here. So it leads me to believe there's still a question around whether or not there has been an appointment of a specific individual into the position of city clerk. So I just wanted to come and ask the group. I know Ms. Burton was there, she did articulate her position on it, but it still left me with much question about it. And if there was an individual actually appointed to serve in the role of city clerk, then I also would want to know, where are the notes for that? Did I get that? And then was the position opened up for public, for applicants to join in the application pool, et cetera? I just don't have any of those details, and I'm trying to find them. So I wanted to ask the group.
Thank you. I'm going to
Sure.
refer to our
Oh,
attorney.
I'm sorry, I just stepped off for a phone call. What was whether there was a clerk or not?
Not,
She said she was at the hearing, and there was some.
do you want me to repeat it or no?
You can.
Okay. And thank you, I
Go
won't.
ahead.
So in the meeting that occurred, to me, I was actually there, and I left feeling like it's still, to me, not known whether or not there was actually an individual, meaning a specific name of a person appointed by this group to serve in the position of city clerk. I know there was some discussion about it. I know Ms. Burton did share her views on it, which I understand, but I haven't been able to find any records that show that, no dates. So I'd love to know the date that may have occurred, and then who was appointed, and then also, if possible, I'd love to get the date where that position was actually posted for folks to apply.
You heard this at a meeting or the hearing the other day?
it was at the hearing.
Court hearing. And
Yes,
it's my understanding that there's another court hearing tomorrow where that I'm sure all of that's gonna be asked.
correct.
So I have been advised that there's people from the city that are testifying, so.
So I can't get the opinion of the group or any feedback from the group? I'm just trying to get references to
I would,
when the
the
meeting's
hearings,
going
the hearings tomorrow where sworn testimony will be given, I just would recommend that the questions be asked by the attorneys at the hearing tomorrow.
Okay. All right, and the group defaults to the attorney's position. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, do we have any other public comment? Okay.
Mayor, I have a request.
Yes.
Could I just say one brief thing? It's positive. Just one. Okay. As you all know, we were here at 2:00 for a workshop on animal control and our animal control ordinance and the interlocal agreement. And Bill Higgins, one of our county commissioners, was here, with Terry Suggs, our county administrator, and Ms. Young, the new deputy administrator, who's now over animal control. And I just wanted to say thank you, Mayor. I thought you did a great job at managing the meeting and coordinating between the commission and the county representatives. I thought we really got a lot accomplished, and I just wanted to thank you and everybody, all my fellow commission members, and Charles and Bobby. I thought we had a great exchange, and I think we made great progress, and we worked together well as a team. So I just wanted to say thank you.
Thank you. I think it was a team effort, and I think they walked away feeling the same way, and I think everybody walked away very hopeful that, we can work together on this. Thank you. You go ahead and introduce yourself, please.
Thank you. Kev T.O., 148 Euclid Avenue, Lake Como, Florida, 32157. So I'm here today to speak about the crimes that Cynthia Burton has committed, and I'm here to ask that she be charged for her crimes for breaking the law. When a PCSO, this is my 3 minutes, when a PCSO deputy was dispatched to my call, they refused to charge Cynthia Burton after speaking with a supervisor. And when I asked for the name of the supervisor, I was not provided with this information. I also was not allowed to file a 707 charging affidavit, which is routinely done in other counties in the 7th Circuit. So on January 16th, 2023, Cynthia Burton committed multiple first-degree misdemeanors on my property captured on video surveillance. Florida statute 810.09, trespass, as well as trespass and theft contained within Putnam County property, section 34-5 of the Putnam County, Florida Code of Ordinances, and Putnam County Ordinance 80-2. Putnam County Ordinance 80-2 is very clear. If you steal from a county green box, that is a first-degree misdemeanor punishable by up to a year in jail or $1,000 or both. The entire crime was captured on video surveillance, and the footage of that surveillance was sent off to Mr. Jim Stafford. He's a veteran court-certified video forensics expert examiner, 30 years of experience, and he has done work for over 20-plus law enforcement agencies here in the state of Florida, as well as the court system. And in his expert opinion, he stated the suspect in the video and the photographs of Cynthia Burton are one and the same person. There were numerous residents as well with knowledge of Burton's appearance and who signed affidavits that the suspect seen in the video footage is Cynthia Burton herself. Then on February 6, 2023, Cynthia Burton had the nerve after trespassing on my property to go down to the circuit court, file a false perjurious injunction against myself, and in which she stated numerous false statements. He drove by my house honking and yelling at me at the window. These are all quotes from her petition. He drove up into the property and surrounded me with a truck and banner, got out of his car, videotaped while I was speaking to Captain David Ussery of the Putnam County Sheriff's Department. All of these statements are false. I have never honked nor yelled at you, Cynthia Burton, and you know this. And when you were speaking, you were not even.
This is really, sir, this really is.
I mean, I'm getting ready to leave the meeting at this point.
No, you're fine,
Just
you're
continue.
fine, you're fine.
So are you saying that I can't finish my public comments?
Mayor, I think under the rules, I'm supposed to be allowed to say what my point of order is.
Yes, go ahead.
So we passed rules of procedure for the commission, requiring decorum, and as well, we asked those rules specify that people who speak are not supposed to specifically attack or address individual commissioners. Is that right?
Thank you for bringing that to everyone's attention.
Well,
So, sir, there's another form for you to take care of this, and I'm gonna ask you at this time that you take care of it in another form and not here in our commission.
Okay, well, I have to disagree because this is all factual.
You can disagree all you want, sir. Thank you very much. Commissioner Burton, I apologize. And to the commission, I apologize, yes.
The city of Newport Richey, which we model our rules on, the city of Newport Richey, they've actually posted those rules on their website. It's very easy to find. We might want to do that so that people are aware.
Thank you. Okay, with that, do we have any further public comment at this time? Okay. Seeing no more further public comment, I'm going to close public comment, and this time I'm going to ask Captain Ustry, please come forward and give us our sheriff's report.
Good evening, everyone. So we had a good month. Some would say a bad month because it was I think it was like a 300% increase in property crimes, but it was because we went through so lower numbers. So a lot about what's in these first pages here on the, there was some tools stolen off the course. There was a blower stolen. There was a bicycle stolen. There was some vehicles that was entered. And if you remember last month, I kind of alluded to all this already. So we talked about some vehicles that were being rummaged through and things like that. So obviously, just the good work of our detectives and our patrol deputies, we were able to quickly identify who this was just by, through history of how these events were taking place. Historically speaking, we know who were committing these crimes by the same motive of opportunity in which they were being made, and who was out of jail at that time. So once we identified our suspects, we implicated who they were, we were right on point. This is just another, I said it last meeting, this is just another example of the awesome work of not just the deputies, not just the detectives, but also the citizens, you guys. Literally following these suspects, seeing them, knowing they were up to no good, and getting the phone out and recording them and finding them in possession of stolen property and getting those, and getting warrants obtained and getting these people, to the judge to be able to answer for their crime. So with that being said, if you look at some of the locations here, you'll see where it starts out at 212 Palmetto Avenue. That was actually a neighborhood canvas that was conducted. Let me back up just a second. What happened here, when you have two or more similar crimes in a certain area, what happens is it creates what we call a pattern. And a lot of things start to happen there, and it involves a lot of moving parts. It involved our deputies, it involved our crime analysts, it involved our crime suppression unit, it involved our detective division, and all these people working together as one cohesive group finally brought this to a conclusion. So through an extensive neighborhood canvas from our detectives and our crime suppression unit, they were able to locate some crimes that hadn't even been reported. One was this first one at 212 Palmetto. During a neighborhood canvas, Detective Hernandez was able to identify a tool bag that was stolen off the front porch of the house a couple of days prior. There was porch was accessible. There was nothing, any kind of barriers or anything to keep anybody out of there. Somebody simply walked up on the porch and took the bag of tools. So fast forward to, and that happened on March 1st, so he found out on the 3rd. Fast forward to the 7th, there was a vehicle that was broken into. There was video surveillance, video footage of that one, which was another one of the implications of our suspect. Look again back at 212 Palmetto Avenue, went back over there again on a second occasion where this is where everything kind of fell together. We were putting everything together, looking at going and possibly getting warrants for Miss LeClaire, who has been a habitual problem in Crescent City. And so along with trying to obtain these warrants, we finally got the meat and potatoes, as you would say, of what we needed. And that's where the individuals basically called her in progress, breaking their stuff, and ended up following her with a video where she dumped the bicycle she took from Lake Street and the blower that she took from the house that she was there from. So, and then she was found in possession of some of the property from one of the car burglaries. So, unless you want me to go into the details of that, she is in jail right now. along with a couple other individuals that I have been, in contact with the mayor and the city manager about. Both of those are in jail. And I'm working with the state attorney's office now to see where we're going with those. One of those individuals I had very high hopes with that, we took a lot of time, spent a lot of time with, and got into veterans court and some other things that they just weren't complying with. And unfortunately, they reoffended and they have been offered 6 years in the Department of Corrections. So, you know, you try to help people, but sometimes they just don't want to be helped. So as far as any questions on the incidents with the car burglary, the vehicle, the theft from motor vehicles? No.
Do you have any questions, Commissioner?
I don't know how this happened, but traffic crashes. We had none last month. Now, when I say none, we had a couple, parking lot crashes that I could find, because when I seen this, it was a bit alarming to me, so I had to dig into our data and go through every single call for service in Crescent City. And I was able to find a couple, parking lot crashes that were probably just a driver exchange of information, which is normally when people say, hey, we don't want to report this to DHS&D because they don't report it to our insurance, so we'll just take care of it amongst ourselves. That's probably what they were. But there was nothing that was reported to DHS&D. One thing I did do, I hope that maybe helped, it seemed that we were getting a lot of traffic crashes almost every month at Summit and Vernon. So I actually had one of our deputies do an actual detail there at that intersection to enforce some traffic there. So I don't know if that helped. Maybe it did, maybe it didn't, but hopefully that's what it was. Yes.
That's still a place to do a good detail. I think it was last night, come back from Winn-Dixie from the north, approaching, not quite at Vernon and Summit. Somebody passed us going south on the double line, and, you know, it was just luck. They apparently were tired of us going the speed limit, and they didn't care that there was an oncoming car. So, good place for a detail.
Perfect, thank you. The next page you see there is going to be your calls for service. That is really high compared to the last few months. It was 233 calls for service. I really can't say that they were anything from loud music to disturbances, from anything you could think of. So that was just an anomaly, I guess. It was 233 calls for service. 56 of those were traffic stops. Again, no traffic crashes. And 25 of those is where my guys checked out with a suspicious person. Probably people just walking around. So that was probably part of that. Those extra bodies being in Crescent City during that, when I call that pattern, I said there was a lot more activity with law enforcement in Crescent City during that time. The next one is just a 6-month comparison that just kind of shows you how everything's going in Crescent City as far as trend lines. As you see, we had the 4 thefts, we had the 2, the tools that were stolen off the porch, the one that was stolen from the little shed beside the porch at the same address, and then the 2 vehicles that were unlocked and entered and stolen. Sorry. The vehicle and the bicycle that was stolen. Vehicle that was in and the bicycle that was stolen. So that's the 4 crimes that were reported here. Luckily, no, nothing else. The burglary that you see there is incorrect. It was not a burglary. What happened is in our UCR reporting, under our vehicle burglaries is a coding issue. So what happens is it's theft from motor vehicle, and if I don't go in there and change that code, it listed as a burglary, so that's what I found on that one, because I couldn't recall where that was at, so it was a coding issue on that, so that should change.
I guess when you arrest them, you also get upset with them because they really messed up your stats.
Well, not just that, but there's a lot of other things. You know, when we got our monthly StarCom meeting, and my slide popped up, and it said I had 2 vehicle thefts in Crescent City, and I had 2 burglaries. I was like, well, where did that come from? So I figured out it was because we recovered 2 stolen cars off of the LPR readers, off the license plate readers. So as the cars come into county, we can watch them from Daytona and stuff coming, and we can usually intercept them right there at south of Crescent City.
So the license plate readers are very effective.
They are a game changer.
They are.
So, other than that, there is one other thing I want to bring up. We did have I say you want to call it a block party per se. They had a party in Crescent City off of Bay Lane. We had a report of some shots that were fired there. Once we got there, we could not confirm that. Anytime we've been over there and we start getting the complaints of loud music or whatever the case may be, everybody has been compliant with us, everybody has been nice with us. We literally just wait till we get a complaint. We go over there and tell everybody to leave. They're nice, they're polite, our deputies, we had no issues at all. They leave and there's no issues. So that's kind of how we've been watching those and monitoring those. We've been using our crime suppression unit as well, as well as our street crimes unit when they're having these, when we find out they're having these gatherings, these block parties, and the overwhelming presence of law enforcement when they come up there. I don't know if that's what it is, but everybody's been super nice to us and we've had no issues at all. So on this specific incident, when we got there, when my deputies got there, we got a call that there was possibly some shots fired. We couldn't confirm, my deputies couldn't confirm if it was fireworks, if it was somebody shooting a gun. They couldn't figure out what it was, but because we weren't really getting in compliance, nobody was being mean or mad. They just didn't want us there and they were ready to leave. So nothing ever came of that. So if anybody heard got any wind of that, that's what that was about. So I just have nothing to follow up on because I can't confirm that that even happened.
Thank you. Any more questions?
I do, the right one.
January 14th. How come you didn't kind of come down and arrest me? Did you not get a call?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
You know what I'm saying.
I do want to ask if nobody else has any more questions of him right now. Okay. The captain and Mr. Bud and I have talked a little bit about security in the room. And that we need to do something just to make sure that we all feel secure. And, so we're gonna be working on that. I think at the next meeting, I would like for us to, you bring some recommendations on what we can do to make sure that this room is secure. Also, there's a new gun law that goes into effect July 1st. And so maybe if you can just give everybody an overview of that. Already, it's my understanding that in a government building, you're not supposed to, even with a concealed weapons permit, you're not supposed to carry a firearm unless you're.
Well, I can tell you the stance that we take on that is no tolerance. Unfortunately, the rule of law on that is ignorance is no excuse. So don't try to come into a place where you're not supposed to be carrying a firearm and have a firearm because you're going to be making an example. And those changes, nothing's going to change as far as having a concealed weapon. Those same things are going to still apply. What I would encourage you to do is put something out on social media that says that, hey, none of these rules are changing. So make sure you're aware of where you can go and where you can't go, because our stance, especially on government buildings, is if there's no tolerance. And we're just not going to tolerate it, and we're going to make an example.
So if you'll bring some recommendations, I know we need to put some signage up out front also, but if you'll just, at the next meeting, bring some recommendations for the commission.
Yes, no problem. Absolutely.
Commission good with that?
Good.
In today's, with everything going on. So, yeah, we do, and it's not. So, thank you very much.
Perfect.
Any other questions? No? Thank you. Keeping us safe, thank you.
Thank you.
Before we go any further, I do want to, I'm gonna, just for a moment, if y'all allow me to do this, I do again want to apologize. Sitting up here, and I know especially as sitting up here as the chair, it can be difficult. It can be very difficult at times, and you have to weigh out. You just have to weigh some decisions. And to my fellow commissioners, please know that I apologize. I know that we are all scrutinized constantly. And everybody here is really working hard to try to do the best job to serve the residents. And so I just, I want to commend all of my commissioners here and thank them, and thank them also for the patience with me. But for all of you out there, just know there's so many good, positive things going on in this city, and y'all are a part of that, and we appreciate that. And so we just need to continue to focus on the positive. So thank you, and I just wanted to get that out there before we go further. And with that, we're going to move on to our next agenda item.
I think isn't that, the resolution
Yeah.
2302?
Resolution 2023-02, a resolution of the city of Crescent City urging the Putnam County School Board and the Putnam County School Administration to do everything in its power to preserve the historic Miller Middle School building, gymnasium, and auditorium for future generations and providing for an effective date. Mayor, this, you have two resolutions to look at in your packet. The first one is the one last month that I just introduced to you, very simple resolution. And then the second was drafted, Commissioner DeVito provided from her and the Historical Society, for the Peninsula Historical Society, for your consideration. And with the resolution, even though the title is slightly different on the longer one, we would not have, you don't have to advertise resolution, so it wouldn't be necessary to delay it and re-advertise if you were to go with the longer resolution. The staff does recommend that you pass a resolution tonight.
Well, we have the two, yes.
I make a motion that we approve resolution 2023-02.
Which version?
Which version?
Long one or the short one?
We have the two versions.
That was like the long one.
We had the
That was
last
short.
one. Yes.
Yeah, so.
No,
No,
that's,
long,
no,
that was long.
they're both the same. Well, why don't we hold off, can we hold off on the motion, Bobby, and let's discuss this resolution?
There's 201 that Commissioner DeVito just kind of added things to, or the original one. So the question is which one would to do this one? Yeah, it's a little confusing, but.
Do you want to make a motion, or do you want to hold off?
We'll hold on.
Anybody else want to make a motion on this?
Okay, sure, I'll make a motion. I would like to make a motion that we adopt the longer version of Resolution 2023-02 without the blue and the underscoring. The city manager and I were not able to deal with the word processing system, and we could not get this thing to print out without the strike-throughs and underlines. But getting rid of those, I moved the longer version. And I think some of these nice people that came for the proclamation and the picture will explain why I'm moving the longer version.
Okay. So we have a motion, we have a second, okay, so let's have some discussion. Any comments? Okay, Commissioner Burton, I'm gonna start with you.
Somebody needs to help me with maybe some dates. I'm not.
The gymnasium was built in 1936, and the auditorium was built in 1957.
Yeah, because.
The main building was in 1927.
Yes.
Can we do the whole grounds? I mean, the grounds was there when they built the thing to begin with.
That's not what they're talking
Most of the
about.
buildings are new. Some of the classroom buildings are newer. And they weren't,
And
they weren't included in the national
Trying
registry.
to- Charles, let me ask, Charles, would you just kind of go through and explain to the commission what we're hoping to accomplish here?
So this is identifying three buildings, the old original schoolhouse, the gymnasium, and the auditorium, is expressing our desire that the school board do whatever they can to preserve those buildings. We know the rest of the buildings are newer and aren't considered historic. But this resolution says kind of whatever happens there, do whatever can be done to preserve those three buildings. And the language doesn't specifically include one reuse, adaptive reuse as an example, but that's a possible way of preserving the buildings. It wouldn't necessarily be a schoolhouse anymore, for instance. Could be something else, but when you drive by, you still see the old historic schoolhouse, and gymnasium. So that, I think both of these are the same. There's much more detail in all. The one describes the history and the specific details. Essentially, this says, the long one says take all necessary measures to preserve those, whether the school keeps it or it's sold. There's not much the school can do after it's sold.
Except for an agreement, it would be sold subject to an agreement. That would be the idea.
See, I don't think that's necessarily true. I'm sorry, Commissioner.
Part of the sales agreement that they
Well, I think that's
agreed not to tear down.
I mean, the idea is to put out all the possibilities. Obviously, we can't make them. This is
This
the
isn't binding on them.
right, it's not binding.
Expresses our desire to keep those
Well, you know,
buildings.
there is kind of a precedent, the Circle K, the old kangaroo down there that stipulates that it can't be sold to sell gas or liquor or anything like the Circle K.
That was put in their deed. That was put in their deed. This is a
Yeah, I
resolution.
remember
This
that.
is a
So this
resolution.
just wouldn't require that, but expresses our desire that they do what they can to those three buildings remain.
I'm just trying to give it as much teeth as we could get, you know, to make it stick. As much as we can, proclamation kind of thing.
We try to keep
Those three,
three good
yeah.
if possible. If it comes to that.
But as Mayor, if I could add one more piece of explanation, just a third whereas clause, and the fourth clause make it clear that, this is partly for Commissioner Bailey's benefit, since he's new to this. These three buildings are all, two of the buildings are currently contributing structures and very important contributing structures in our National Register of Historic District. And then there's a third that might be deemed contributing in the future. But the longer version gives those specifics. And, you know, I thought the first sentence in the short version was very good. It says the city treasures its rich cultural and architectural history, and that was why the city in 1995 went to all the trouble to apply to the Department of the Interior for a historic district. And you don't have a district if you don't have the contributing buildings.
So it's not binding on the school board. I think it's a way just to express our sincere desire to them. It's something we can do, an action we can take to express that to them, and perhaps it'll have an impact on the process. So my recommendation is that we approve. That you approve.
Okay. Bobby, have you read this resolution?
Yes.
Okay. The second one too,
I think you're legally.
legal. Okay. Commissioner Burton, you had,
No, I'm good.
okay.
So I think we should take a vote. Did somebody make a motion?
We have a motion and a second. Commissioner Vito made the motion.
That's a long one, right?
Yes, Commissioner Banks seconded it.
Are we supposed to have public
I'm
comment?
going to. So at this time, anyone that would like to speak to this, please come forward, state your name, state your address. You've got 3 minutes.
BJ Laurie, 505 Magnolia Avenue, Crescent City. We, the Burton Municipal Historical Society helped put together and draft a second resolution. We wanted it to be more specific, kind of point out the reasons for the importance of these buildings. And we know that this resolution is not legally binding, but it's something that put on the record to say that the city commission wants to save these buildings. So that at least we have a position from you guys as the city that says something that we can go to the school district and say, here, this is the official position. So it's, very important that we save those buildings just because of their importance, but I also think that the building a school at that location is not the best idea. But we've already gone back and forth now with 2 different developers that have had offers that they've turned down. So as far as I know, as of last week, it's still full steam ahead on building the school there. But we would just like to pass the more specific, the longer resolution. I think it just has more information in there and really, kind of gets to the meat of the problem. That's it.
Thank you. Do you have any other speakers?
Street Register 499 Clifton Road. It was just also brought to my attention that the first weaning of the elementary that a lot of us went to elementary school in were built in the 1940s. So those are also part of that historic group. I just want to make sure, we try to preserve what we can, because as far as we move forward with our historic preservation, we're losing it all. There's not going to be much left. So if those buildings go, it's pretty much going to wipe out that side of town. As far as historic preservation is concerned.
Okay, do we have any other speakers? This time I'm going to close public comment. Commissioners, do you have any further discussion? With that, I will call for motion and second. Karen, I'm going to ask you to do a roll call, please.
Commissioner Burton,
I would want to say yes, and everybody says I would say A. Yes.
Commissioner Banks,
Yes.
Commissioner Banks,
I think we got our point clear.
Commissioner Bailey,
Aye.
Commissioner DeVito,
Aye.
Mayor Mars.
Aye. So moved. Okay, let's move on to the first reading of ordinance 2023-06.
Ordinance 2023-06, an ordinance of the city of Crescent City, Florida, creating chapter 22, minimum maintenance standards, establishing procedures and guidelines for maintenance standards, providing for legislative findings and intent, providing for implementing administrative action, providing for severability, providing for conflicts, providing for codification and directions to the code codifier, and providing for effective date. Mayor, this item is coming to you after months of work by the commission, 3 workshops, rolled with this, using the International Property Code as a international minimum maintenance standards as a basis for this. This is in line with our one of our strategic plans, which is to eliminate private properties. Part of the strategy of that was to develop and adopt minimum maintenance standards. So I did put together a brief slideshow to talk to you about some of the issues that we addressed. Oftentimes buildings, they meet the building code, but don't meet maintenance code. So, and that's what this would do is give us tools to address these conditions in the community. This is what people see going through the community. It does not allow the code officer to enter anyone's home without permission. That was kind of a rabbit hole we went down last time. It does allow us to address these types of conditions. These are abandoned properties that are in very poor maintenance. You can see the holes in the siding, peeling paint, missing paint, rotted wood, for example. This is commercial property, rotted eaves, again, lack of maintenance. And these minimum maintenance standards would give us something to notify these owners. So I was given notice first, compliance, rotten exterior boards. In this case, this is the paint is chalky, this is rotten exterior. And again, many of these buildings are old historic buildings, and this is demolition by neglect. Particularly that first one you saw is just getting worse and worse. And these buildings begin to eventually need to be demolished. These conditions continue. So it's not a simple thing. In the community, this is even a parking lot that would be addressed to maintain the asphalt in the parking lot. This is what we're all familiar with. Again, it reflects on the community that they're not maintained. This is another tool for us to utilize. This building meets the building code. It has been secured. but it's a mess, and it's the entry of our downtown. So this code will allow us to address these things in the community, send out a letter notifying you're in compliance with our maintenance requirements in this community. And then typically compliance is the goal, and we bring it into compliance and then we look in the community. So we've been through this, actually paragraph by paragraph. The copy you have in your still highlights all the changes that were done with underlined, strike through, and highlighted in yellow. And so staff recommends approval on first reading, advances to second reading for this ordinance.
Well,
I need a motion.
I make a motion that, ordinance 2023-06, that pass on the first reading, and anything else, not down on the second reading. They give a chance to study.
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Okay, Commissioner Fritz. Have any discussion?
Yes, Mayor, I have a couple things to say about those. I do see immediately some things that I think need amendments, and keeping in mind, I think this thing is at least, I don't know, 75 to 100 pages long. And I know we went over it, but it's extremely detailed. So this came about in part because I approached our city manager, just like I approached our former city manager, Patrick Kennedy, and said, how can we prevent demolition by neglect? And this was our current city manager's proposed solution. I have some reservations about this because it seems like we're going from nearly 0 to 1,000 miles an hour overnight. It's a very detailed ordinance. It deals not only with the exterior of the building, like the pictures that Mr. Rudd showed, but it deals with parking lots. It deals with the interiors of the building. And thinking about the practical application of this, for example, a parking lot. Concrete's very expensive, or cement, I forget which it is when it's down there. It is literally possible that we could put a business owner out of business by the literal application of this very detailed ordinance as well. Although the code officer cannot go inside buildings, people can make complaints. There was even, for those of you who remember the sitcom Seinfeld, there was a Seinfeld episode about this. The character Kramer put the shoe repair business out of business because he saw wires in the ceiling and reported it to code, and the people couldn't afford to fix it. Well, this covers everything. This covers locks, windows. My feeling about this is that maybe there's a middle ground somewhere to do the exterior, not the interior, not to address the parking lots. I mean, I was actually looking today. We have a lot of driveways around here. I think one might even belong to one of us on the commission. Not mine, but maybe mine would, but it was somebody else's I saw. That would be, I mean, if you applied this literally, it would be thousands of dollars. So if you're a homeowner, and you can't afford to fix your driveway at the moment, it could be, you know, it could be a lien on your home forever that would take away, you know, tens of thousands of dollars of your home value. So I certainly care very much about demolition by neglect. I would like to find a way to address it. But once we pass this, I really worry that it can have some very unintended consequences. And I think we need to talk a little bit more about what would really happen if we pass this. Because it could be a disaster for some people. There's not one situation up there that I would like to address. Just not sure this is the right way.
My motion was to just pass it on the first reading, and if we come, after we study, then we can come down and vote it down on this. last meeting.
But we have to take all those changes tonight. And that's why I'm waiting for the second meeting.
With
I mean,
all these problems, she always, it'll take a workshop.
I think, you know, we pass these things and of course, let's say we pass it on the first, we pass it on the second. This doesn't mean that it's always set in stone forever until we all die and, you know, and there's no more Crescent City left. I mean, we probably can, there's enough work out there right now, I'm looking at this building, to, go after some of these things rather quickly if we have them, if we have something to use, a tool to use to do that. But, you could, what am I trying to say here? I mean, I thought we did a pretty good job with this. And I don't necessarily disagree with Commissioner DeVito, but I also don't think that we're gonna have the Gestapo go in and checking out people's homes and getting to the point where, we have enough blight, I guess, for a few years. It's not easy to clean up blighted houses. It's not like we can walk in and do it tomorrow. It takes time. Takes time.
You know, one part-time.
Yeah, it's just not that easy to do. People own the properties. It's not like you're gonna go in there and just.
Well, in my opinion, are you sure? In my opinion, it's too subjective, it's too intrusive. There's too many things that go through. You're dealing with the poorest of the poor people. If they can afford to fix their house, they already would. Have code enforcement levying more fines on a daily basis. It was intrusive to begin with, where you could go through and then not have to pay for attorney, couldn't sue. The thing couldn't be liable for damages to break in. We did all this before. I don't think it's much better than it is now. I don't think it should go forward whatsoever. In my opinion. And I think you will, before it's over with, have people live in a house that would be evicted. And then where do they go? They're homeless. They can't afford to fix what they got. And if, you levying with all this kind of stuff and find it's not, people have been living in substandard houses in this town for a while. Times are hard.
Look,
You can't make them harder.
if they own the home, we can't evict them. If they're renters, then their landlord needs to fix the building, needs to be held accountable and having them live if it's a slum condition. This would give us the tools to have the landlord to address those slumlords. We have them to fix the property. Otherwise, they're getting away with allowing their tenants, taking advantage of their tenants to live in slum conditions. Most of the examples I showed you are commercial, very standard in downtown redevelopment as you pass maintenance standards, because one of the challenges, the buildings are in such disrepair that they're not rentable. So again, this gives another tool to fix up the commercial property. And most of the properties, the ones, I think all the ones I showed you that were homes are vacant, are just empty and unusable, or slowly falling apart. They've just been abandoned. So again, this gives us a tool. But if a home is homesteaded, and we can put all the things in the world we want on there, we can't evict anyone, we can't do much at all. It doesn't really come into effect until they want to sell their home, and then there would be a lien involved in the sale.
That could be against it. I mean, you could literally destroy someone's value of their home.
But if you consider the code we currently have, which is as detailed as this, we could do what you're saying. We could be wrecking people's lives, putting liens all over the city. And we haven't done that. We have only a certain amount of capacity to, if someone files a complaint, we have to address it. The rest of it, we handle as we can. And many of it, we don't have the tools to do anything about the building condition it's in. It's just, we just hope they'll do something about it. Later tonight, we're going to talk about the CARET grant program, but this provides us with a stick. So we have a grant program in place to help people, and we have a stick saying, we're tired of you, the way you treat our community, what you're letting us, the businesses, these buildings look like. Because we all feel the impact of that. If that house that I showed you start out with, all the neighbors bear the burden of that building, that home as a neighbor house. It's empty, it's rotting, it's beginning to crumble, and it impacts their value and their quality of life. So this would give us the opportunity to address that, to work on neighborhoods, and work with property owners. Typically, we send a warning letter, they address the issue on the other parts of our code. And that's the goal, is compliance, not to go straight to a lien. We want to get it cleaned up, and we'll have a carrot with our grant program where we could help those that are in the redeveloped area. So this is a tool. It doesn't mean it's going to be the end of our quality of life. It's going to improve our quality of
Well,
life.
don't you think then we ought to have this where it's depicted by houses that are abandoned versus houses that have tenants in them? Then, with what you're saying is true, that these houses are abandoned, so on and so forth, I can see that. But having someone with low income living in a house, maybe doesn't have water to whatever, that's a different story. Abandoned house is on the deal is completely different than someone living in it and can't afford to do it. Like this piece of property here, in my mind, value, what's gonna happen is it'll go down in value enough that someone will buy to put something in it and fix it. This guy is obviously Circle K owns it.
Yeah.
They have the money to fix it up. They bought it to run them out of business, so they would have all the business there. And for someone to pick that particular building, can't have gas, can't sell liquor, I've looked into it, put the barbecue place there. So I know that before it's over with, they'll send that piece of property for $70,000 instead of $150,000, and knowing that you can't put a thing there, and someone will put a Cassie's donut shop in and fix it up to do that. Sometimes these things take care of themselves, and the opportunity for someone to buy that reasonable and to fix up, that's what we want. And to have a code, I just think this is just too intrusive and it's too broad, and it's not good for the city. Now, nobody wants blighted houses, but sometimes these things take care of themselves, and that piece of property, well, not that one, but the kangaroo place, someone will buy that, put a shop in it, and they'll get a deal on it, which makes them afford to fix it. The current owner is not gonna do anything with it. And it may have cracked concrete, but that's I just think it's too intrusive. I've said that from the beginning, I'll leave it at that.
Okay, Commissioner Banks.
But what we gonna do, just let them sit there forever?
Right.
It's a so coming into town, that building been there for I don't know how long. And that building right there been there for I don't know how long.
Well, if people abandon them, I think that's a whole different thing than
Yeah,
we're right here.
But how long are we as commissioners gonna let it sit there and look like that?
Well, we'll let it sit.
And don't react?
It's not easy to get hold of these properties and do anything with them. I mean, an example, and I hate to use this as an example because it's no longer in existence, is the small church that was over on Bay Lane. That was a dilapidated old church, and I think that we kind of tried to get
The ownership.
the ownership of that, so that we could do something with that piece of property. It just sat in limbo. We couldn't, it's just not like you can walk up and grab these things and do anything with them. It takes work. But you have to be able to start somewhere.
And I don't have any examples of an owner-occupied blighted home. I know there are rented blighted structures in the city, and again, my contention is we need to press the property owner to do something, to not have people living in those conditions. But if it's owner-occupied, I don't have an example to show you rather than hypothetical of an owner-occupied. If there's no water service, they're not allowed to live there, so.
And that's kind of what I'm saying, is the bottom line is the people that are in it already, they may not be living in what goes on, but there's codes enough that they're living inside it, that the structure of the grass and the roads and stuff like that, we get that. If the grass isn't mowed, there is something we can do with what codes are already here. Look at that, that is, windows aren't right, the grass isn't mowed, so on and so forth. If we're not doing anything to it, that's kind of our fault not to enforce the code we already have. Being able to have this kind of intrusive thing, which would encompass people in a home, is what I'm against. A blighted house like this, it's all abandoned, so on and so forth. Show me something we can do to take that, or fix it up, or have them do something with it, I'm all for. People living in their dwelling the way they do, that's their own business. They got no business walking in somebody's house.
Well, we're not, that's not what
Yeah,
we're.
we don't
Yeah,
want.
we don't,
That's
won't be allowed there, so.
That's what it was when we started this before, and it's kind of washed out.
There's never been that, let me clarify that, yes, Commissioner DeVito.
In the event that we're gonna vote on this and possibly pass it, I did identify some amendments. Should I go through those?
If you will, I just want to ask Charles a question. It seems like this is one of those hard decisions that's what we're up here for. I think we've all identified that we have blight in the city. I mean, the first building you come to when you drive into Crescent City, you see the old Circle K. It's embarrassing. You know, for most of us, it's just an embarrassing structure. It's neglected and it doesn't show pride being taken in the community. And that's what we're trying to do, is to establish pride in the community. I also feel that there is some apprehension from residents feeling that we're going to go after their structures. And you were probably referring to my driveway this morning.
Actually, I wasn't.
Oh, okay.
Go ahead, tell us
Because
about
it
it.
is cracked and we are working on it, that's part of the whole renovation. But that was never our intention to go in and attack and try to do that. Is there any way, Charles, that we could start this in such a way that maybe we start with, and we can always add to it, that we start with our abandoned commercial and homes, our commercial properties and the homes, and then add into it as we go forward, where we add the rentals into it. Can we do something like that? Like you said, we've already got enough work on our hands that we can't even keep up with can't even keep up with what we've got out there now. I'm just trying to find a solution here that everybody can feel comfortable with, get acquainted with it, and realize that we're not gonna be the Gestapo. We're not coming after everybody.
Let me ask this for clarification. In my opinion, we should workshop this more to bring it forth. And I believe if that's not what Commissioner Banks was saying when he made the motion to put it aside not to do the first reading and workshop it again. I don't know if that's correct or not.
I think the motion was to pass it on first reading and then make changes before the second reading, which we would have to make tonight.
Well,
The other thing, how long ago did you maybe 7 years, maybe 5 years? Something like that. So that Circle K down there look like, that's been closed ever since I lived here. Now, this house where I've been closed ever since, for a long time, since you lived here.
Long.
For a long time. And when I first came to the commission meetings, I was just a observer like you guys out there, and Commissioner Banks was talking about the blighted properties then. And these properties, now that was 5 years ago, 6 years ago. These same properties are still blighted, they're 5 years older, more blighted. I just think you have to start somewhere. You have to start.
And that's what I'm trying to say, is let's start, maybe that's what we do, is we start with these abandoned properties that are just sitting there. And
I wouldn't.
I'm just throwing that out there, that's where we start. That's gonna give us, a lot of work.
How would you get to the mayor?
No, what,
I think Circle K, when they closed that place down, they took the tank out, they wanted to dictate to us what they put there in the beginning. Cause they, I don't think they just had to take the tank out right then. But they made sure that we wouldn't be able to put no competition in it.
That's right.
Another gas station.
Right.
And it's sitting there
Yes.
for a good while now.
That's
And
not
it's a 4 hour when you come in from the south end of Crescent City.
And I talked to the guy in Chicago who owns the property, runs it for a Circle K, and that's exactly what he said. We bought that to run them out of business and have it, we don't want it anymore. There, period. And, you know, it's there. But that's business, that's their option. It didn't do any good, but they have the clause in the title to do that. And
Yeah.
anybody who buys that has to accept that.
And got the money. Go to Bobbyville. They got $1 million service station behind the bushes there, ready to stand, open up.
Yeah.
And we're
And
seeing
they're
that
gonna have
results
that,
that.
and we've got that, I mean, Pearson has it too with Dollar General, Dollar General,
Yeah,
and
they're seeing
there's
it.
Pearson that lives there. We also heard yesterday in our presentation that businesses like this, these big box businesses, these are called throwaway buildings. And so, you know, that's what we're dealing with, so I think we're back to, that's something for the commission to think about. Do we want to start somewhere, and we start with the abandoned buildings, we start with commercial and residential, and then we can add to it, and then we can add to it as we go forward. See how this works out, make sure everybody gets a little more comfortable with it. So that's something to think about, and then we're gonna have to open it up to public comment.
I wouldn't have any worries about supporting empty abandoned houses in a building, a commercial building like Kangaroo and some other stuff for a starting point. If we wanted a starting point, that's where I would go, but we'd have to workshop it to bring it forth again, and it won't be changing it tonight with this.
I don't think we have to workshop it,
No, I don't think we have.
we have to workshop
I mean, we've
that
already workshopped
to
it.
change that.
We haven't workshopped it enough, apparently.
I mean, if you make
I need you to,
the changes that I think y'all are gonna make, it's gonna have to be a first reading again.
then we get first reading again. Okay.
In my hearing, you want to make it applicable only to abandoned buildings, to unoccupied buildings?
I think that would be, you want to start.
So it's occupied, there'll be no maintenance.
Unoccupied abandoned buildings and commercial buildings like this that are empty and not used for years.
Mayor, can I ask a quick question?
Yes,
Or say, so this is circling back, what the mayor said was something I asked about in the workshop, but I don't know that we got an answer to that. It was essentially what the mayor said, can we apply this to a category? I mean, an ordinance is an ordinance, correct, Bobby?
Yes.
And what I asked in the workshop is, can we apply these standards only to, for example, commercial or rental buildings? Or even take it one step further, commercial buildings that are no longer in use, or commercial or residential buildings that are no longer in use. Can we pass an ordinance like that?
My only thing, then I think you open yourself up to, well, you weren't after me, but you didn't go after them with selective enforcement like that. That would be my only concern. I see what you're
I
saying.
mean, we're saying is, can we establish a category? But if we.
Yeah, I think if, as long as it's like a plainly defined category that we're only going after, or not going after, that sounds bad, it's only gonna apply to commercial buildings, I think that's fine, but it can't be, we'll do it to this commercial building, but not that commercial building, that kind of stuff.
it would have to be, we
It
have
has
to
to,
have
it
it,
needs to apply to that
All blighted
class.
commercial building.
or vacant, you could do vacant. You could do that, yes, sir.
Can I say this? Let me withdraw my motion due to our 10 o'clock time limit of our meetings. Cause we can stay here and do this on the bush all night. And I can see right now, we ain't making no progress at all. So let's do that.
I think,
So that you withdraw your motion.
Yeah. Go ahead, Attorney.
well, and I think Charles and I sitting here, we kind of know where this is going, so I think it'd be easier for us to bring something else back. Maybe that's not as in-depth.
Well, I'm not clear, is it the majority of you that feel this is not right the way it is?
I don't feel that it's not right, that's not what we're saying, that it's
I think
not right.
it could be a doggone sure better for a starting point than what it is.
I'm saying for the comfort level of everyone, that's all, is that can we start with this and then go from there?
Yeah. Just give me the right.
I mean, because I know what we're looking at too, because on Central Avenue alone, how many vacant buildings do we have that would meet this? We've got, just on Central right now, we've got
Well, they may argue they're not vacant.
3.
There's stuff in there.
There's stuff in there.
Those are
And
occupied
that's what I mean,
buildings.
this is
But
not
when you
easy.
say,
They're storage.
Okay,
They're not vacant buildings.
can I clarify?
yes, go ahead.
I think where we're going, and I don't think we can come up with the right language in this meeting, but I think what the mayor is saying is we would, most of us be more comfortable with a more limited application of this to start out with applying it to a more limited application of buildings. And what we are, I think, going for is buildings that are either abandoned or are not in active commercial use.
Well, you know,
Does that
and that's a
make
tough
sense?
one too, and I'll tell you why. I know we had the TD Bank, which was inactive for a while. We had the little diner down there that no one bought, and all of a sudden it bought.
Right.
You know, sometimes these buildings, people are kind of waiting for the right buy.
Yep.
They really are for a building, because buildings are sometimes kind of tough to come by. I'm just saying that if you take this thing, the minimum maintenance standards, and apply it across everything, it's tough. It's a tough thing to do. It's not as easy as what everybody seems to think that, it's going to be. It's just not that easy. But it brings to light what this particular building, what the problems are, and that needs to be addressed.
I think, is it possible, the city manager is asking us for direction, and Mayor, did I even come close to articulating
Yeah,
what
no,
you
no,
want?
absolutely, because to me, if you've got a building and you're just storing stuff in a commercial building and it's not,
It's not active.
that to me is not active commercial.
It's allowable use.
The storage isn't allowable
It's
use.
roughly allowable use in general commercial.
Well,
And that's what I'm saying. There's nothing real easy about what we're trying to get at.
Okay,
So could
That
we,
wouldn't apply to this anyway, if it was allowable use. This wouldn't work anyway.
You would.
Yeah.
This says you have to paint the building. You can't let the paint chipping, peeling. You can't have the mud daubers and that's all over it. You can't have the,
We don't have code for that now.
would you not?
No.
You don't have to paint your building.
so if that's gonna be the case, can we do it in such a way that, again, can we start with commercial buildings? I'm throwing this out there, we need to talk this out. Is this something that we could do where it would be commercial buildings? Because if you've got a business, you really need to be maintaining your business.
I agree.
So could we do it with commercial buildings and vacant abandoned houses?
That's exactly where I thought we would.
So instead of just, and that would cover all of your commercial, we're okay on time, it's only 7:30. I think we're good, we can talk about this.
Yeah, we can talk about this.
So, we could do all commercial and then your abandoned vacant buildings.
Are you saying, like, that's how it would be enforced, or you want that in the ordinance?
That's how we would start it out in the ordinance.
and the ordinance.
I'm just, again, suggesting this, that this would give everyone some better, more comfort in starting it out. And I'm okay with the commercial. If we do it on commercial buildings, they need to be maintained if they're gonna have a business, and it affects all of us. It affects how the city works.
And the present code enforcement stays in place.
Yes.
Okay.
So we need to rewrite that. Title.
Yeah.
But commissioners, that's something,
I think that's a good
I would
question.
support what you have just said.
We need to table this and then we'll bring it back.
probably needs to table it.
So you, just so for some clarification, do you want it to, like, you want the whereas, is that's the goal of the commission that it would be, or do you want it literally in it, says this shall only apply to commercial?
Minimum maintenance standards for commercial structures
I think I would prefer it black and white, right, in
and
clear cut where to go.
So it's commercial and abandoned.
And abandoned, yeah.
how do we define abandoned, just no one's living or it's not occupiable.
Well, it's simple, there's no utilities, nobody can live in it.
Well,
Well, we got some that have utilities, we have some that have utilities on it, I think if it's been abandoned for,
Well, they may have utilities, but if they're not turned on, they're not being paid for, they're not being used or utilized.
Bobby, from a legal standpoint, I think we have to turn to you from a legal standpoint and say, to define.
Is there a definition of condemned or something like that that would be?
cause everything that our manager showed us tonight is.
It should be condemned, it hasn't been condemned, it should be
Almost
condemned.
everything he showed up there on the screen tonight.
So we'll define that when we bring it back. What we mean by it.
That would be something for everybody to think they'll probably be aware of.
And that would give, I feel like, and I can, just so that, I'm gonna go ahead and open up just for public comments on this. I know we're tabling it, but we wanna bring it back to see if that gives everyone a little more comfort with what we're doing here, that, we're not trying to. So please come forward and state your name.
Tracy Eckhart, 109 North Prospect Street. One of the houses that you showed up there was sold within the last 9 months. Now, nobody's in it. It doesn't look livable to me, my standards. But how do you classify that? An abandoned house is not necessarily a vacant house. That house is vacant, it's been vacant for years. It's right over here on the corner by Shepherd's on Main Street. And somebody bought it 9 months ago. They cleaned out the garage because driving by, you could see all the crap sitting there. Finally got hauled away. They've done nothing with it. And they live in the area. So, you can't say that because it's, oh, that's abandoned. No, it's not. Somebody just bought it recently. And this kind of stuff is unacceptable in the city. We do pay more taxes to live in the city, to live in a nice place. And I don't know what you're afraid of. You gotta start somewhere. And we have this kind of trash all over this town. That's not your business.
Okay. I'm gonna,
I still have a minute and a half.
I didn't tell you you could not speak.
Okay, the Circle K. No matter what happened, they have enough money to fix that building so it's presentable. So it sits there empty, it doesn't have to look like a dump when you drive into town. And unless you pass something like this, nothing's gonna change.
Thank you very much. And so Bobby, that's the point is, I think if it's vacant, not necessarily abandoned, but you do have houses that are vacant. Yes, ma'am.
I'm trying to carry some 25 South Lake Street.
Can you pull the microphone, yes, so we can hear you. Karen, did you get her?
You've done a wonderful job.
Yes.
We are working on it.
Did you get it here?
The abandoned houses, yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
I didn't get her name.
Okay, can you repeat your, I'm sorry, she
Rachel
couldn't hear.
Mackenzie, 25 South Lake.
Thank you.
So, I thought the same thing as Burton thought when I did read the whole thing. And it came across very Gestapo, like it's too much. And, I don't think there's any houses in town that passes. These are all old houses. And I just don't think, carbon monoxide, we all need them, we all need it, but I just don't think we all have them. I do think it needs to be worked on. That being said, I do live on South Lake Street, and there's 6 homes on the street. 3 of them were abandoned. We claimed 1 of them, now 2 of them are abandoned, and we own 2 of them on the street. We have 1 for sale. And people came this week and drove down the street and said, we don't even want to see it, it's such a nasty area.
Yeah.
So we gotta do something, but I just don't think we need to go so far.
My point is that
But I don't think, I think people are taking it too far. I think, we do have to start somewhere. And a lot of people are thinking, boy, we're gonna walk into these houses and that's not gonna happen.
Well, I guess though, what you have to keep in mind is once you pass an ordinance that says you can do something, like I had been to see Mr. Rudd, if he got getting mad at me and it said you could do it, well, he could say, go do it to her, I'm not at her. So we can't say it's okay. We have to be really careful because once you've said it's okay, then anybody can do it. And you know, who knows how long you're gonna be the council, the next council might say, look, we can do this. So we have to be careful.
That's a good point. Thank you. That's a very good point. Thank you.
That was a relay race, I thought.
I'm not inside, Terry, from Chestnut Street. I agree with that when you just started. I'm sorry?
I was making a joke, I said, did you edge right out of the way?
She didn't take it home.
It's not cross country, I'm sorry, Diane. Go ahead.
Please start our clock again.
Yes.
It's doing. I agree, I think we need a definition of what's considered abandoned. If we're gonna say abandoned property, well, what's the definition of abandoned property? I believe we live in we're not the poorest county anymore, we're not even the sixth poorest anymore, but we're still a poor county. And, like we're saying here, many people, if they could fix up their homes, they would fix up their homes. It's not a matter of not wanting to or wanting to live in a crap house. It's what they can afford. And I like what the city manager suggested, having a grant program that people can apply for assistance. If we're gonna say you gotta do this, we gotta provide some mechanism for them to accomplish it. I just don't think it's fair right across the board to include houses where people are doing the best they can.
Thank you.
Alice McCoy, 315 North Summit. I think it's a very good thing that you are addressing this situation. But I do think we need to, like Diane says, I think we do need to have something in place for people that are homesteaded and live in their house. We need, whether it's a grant, whether it's not a grant, something in place to help those people. Whether the city puts a certain amount of money aside to use for small, lower interest loans for people to fix up their property, and have that be designated for homesteads, not for anything else. And then address the commercial. And if something's a rental property, it's commercial. I mean, if they're renting it to somebody, they're making money from it and they pay commercial taxes on it. So I think those you should designate separately, and those would be the first that you should go after. And if it's all worded properly, then the next commission that comes along can't say, oh, we're gonna have this power. So I'm just saying, be careful in your wording, and I think you all can do this. I think it's something that needs to be done and you can do it, but think through each property, and that way you can protect the homeowners, the homesteaded people, the people that really can't afford to do much more, and guide them. Because just because you talk about it here, and maybe there might be something on Facebook or whatever, there's a lot of elderly people that don't do Facebook, and you need to communicate whatever these programs are, communicate them to the people and the elderly people especially, but communicate it to the citizens properly, so they won't feel that they've been, that you're taking over and gonna come and get them and all that, but they'll feel comfortable that the city commission has their interest at heart.
Thank you. Thank you. And that's something through our SHIP program through the county too, and I've spoken to Commissioner Pickens about maybe coming down and doing a workshop and explaining to people how they fill out that application and get on that list too, that they can get assistance through the county for that SHIP program. So, do we have any other speakers?
Do the ship, let me ask you something, do the ship. I don't think they come in the city though.
Yeah,
You sure?
Yeah, they're not spending all that money, that's how we get it back.
So,
Again?
take some down there.
What about that harm money, the stuff we have to use before April next year?
That's further on the agenda.
Can that
Okay.
be set aside for loans or grants for low interest things like you were talking about?
We have to spend it by the end of next year.
Yes.
And we can use it for economic development. I'm not sure. I have to look and see if we can use it on housing.
So I was just wondering, that's why I asked, is what she proposed was a pretty good idea to help. My biggest problem, maybe all the help is, you know, like she just said, not everybody's online on Facebook. How do we get the word out to the nice lady who's sitting in there and, you know, in their house in Middle Main Street that doesn't know really what's going on?
Call the utility bill.
Yes, which by the way, I've gotten a lot of compliments. I don't know if any of you looked at your utility bill, but thank you, Charles. I continue to get compliments for the update that's in the utility bill.
We put it in the bill.
We put it in the bill and people have been very, very appreciative of that.
In the past, we have applied for low-income grants, and we were kind of successful. There's several homes in Crescent City was improved through that way. So maybe, I heard Commissioner mention about this, a grant. And will we, Tim Fox was the one who got those grants for us. And
Block grants?
yeah, and we did wonders, 6 or 7 houses. Now, some houses were so bad, once the contractor got into it, that's why you see some new ones, in different places, because once the contractor got into it, and you know how, old homes be, time you get into it, they tell, and then you find everything. Everything. And then they had to come back and rebid, and then they got approval just to go ahead and do the house. Do a whole, put another house there.
Yeah, but I think the point there is they did do something with the home, and even when they got into it, then after the grant.
Yeah, they did, they fixed those that were fixable. But some of them just wasn't dealing with some money. Yeah, right.
So, Bobby, when you're looking at this, if you can look at, you know, is it something that as far as you giving definitions, it could even be that it's non-homesteaded property. You know, to start off with, if you needed to. So whatever's gonna be the best recommendation for a definition, because that would cover your rentals as well. And I know that's a concern for a lot of our renters, but that would cover your renters as well if it's non-homesteaded property. So that's just something that, as a recommendation to come back to us. Do we have any other speakers at this time, sorry, Commissioner Hanks? Do we have any other speakers at this time? No, I'm gonna go ahead and close out public testimony on this. That's it.
So I need to withdraw my motion and table it, or what?
You already
You already
withdrew it, so we can have a motion.
I'm talking so much, I can withdraw.
I do need a motion to table this.
I make a motion that we table it.
I'll second.
Okay. I have a motion and a second. Commissioner DeVito, you have a comment?
Well, I have a question of the city attorney. So if we're tabling this, but we're gonna bring it back with substantial alterations, isn't it still a first reading the next time?
Yes.
So is tabling the right thing to do?
No, I think, no.
Okay.
I think we should bring it back.
Just bring it back.
Right, so Commissioner Banks, or whoever wants to make a motion, should be,
Withdraw my motion and let it die for a second.
well, would say, and direct them to bring it back with the changes that we requested. Is that what we should do, Bobby?
Yeah, it's probably fun, because if we let it die, then we're gonna have to change the
Yeah.
ordinance number, because that ordinance number is gonna be gone, because it didn't pass, so. I would say a motion with us to bring it back with the corrections.
Okay,
Okay.
I make a motion for us to bring it
Withdraw
back.
your
You gotta withdraw your tabled motion,
I think
please.
I withdraw. Did I withdraw?
Yeah, withdraw your table, withdraw the first one, let's withdraw the second one.
I withdraw my table.
Okay, now go ahead.
Yeah, and then I'll make a motion that we bring it back in a different format.
Okay.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Do we have any other discussion? I guess I need to wait. Come back. And then-
There it is.
Okay, Commissioner Bailey, currently we have a motion, to have them go back and rework this and bring it back to us at the next meeting, and we have a proper second. Okay, so Karen, go ahead and let's do roll call if you would, please.
Commissioner DeVito,
Aye.
Commissioner Bailey,
Aye.
Commissioner Banks,
Aye.
Commissioner Burton,
Aye.
Mayor Myers.
Aye. Okay, thank you. Good discussion. Okay, let's go to, the first reading of ordinance 2023-07. I'm sorry, Bobby, are you ready?
Ordinance 2023-07, ordinance of the city of Crescent City, Florida, amending ordinance 2022-23, providing for implementing administrative actions, providing for severability, providing for conflict, providing for codification and directions to the code codifier, and providing for an effective date.
Mayor, this item is to address this last fall. We passed ordinance 2223 to move our business tax receipt fees back to what they used to be. And then we were notified by the 4 league cities, you can only increase them by 5% annually. So we need to go back to the $35 and increase 5% at a time.
And that's the only one it applies to.
Yes.
Mhm.
Okay. Okay, so that would be a $1.75 increase, correct?
For 5%.
So $36.75.
That is now every year.
Every year, 5%.
Yes.
Okay, Commissioners, I need a motion, please.
I'll make a
Make a motion to go ahead and, approve ordinance 2023-07,
First reading.
first reading, yes.
I second.
I have a motion and a second. Commissioners, do you have any discussion?
I have two comments. One, the way I read the motion as drafted, it would be a perpetual 5% increase. It would not stop when it got to any particular amount. That's how I read it. In section 12, 5% increase each year, starting in 2023. I don't see a cap. And that, I think it's also on, well, insurance agents, but anyway, personally, I think businesses have a hard enough time and we've raised enough fees. I think I voted against this last time. I think we should encourage businesses and not make it harder for them, and there's nothing really, it's just an administrative thing. They pay, we give them the license. So that's my comment on it.
Okay. Do we need to, Bobby, did you hear what, I guess what she's saying is we don't have a.
Yeah, that's the, this is the problem that we kind of run into when Charles and I are drafting stuff about y'all's direction, so that, I just put that in there, so that's something that we could change. I mean, it could be an optional increase, it could be an increase every 5 years, I mean, I think the options are endless as long as it's not more than 5% per year.
Per year. Okay, Commissioner DeVito, did you have any language that you would propose for that?
Well, I'm gonna vote against it, but you could just say, starting in 2023 and until it reaches $50, you could just add after the 2023.
Capping that, you would have to put it with
Yeah,
cap at.
with a $50 cap,
Cap at,
but I'm not for the first place. So.
with
But you could do that.
an increased cap up to $50. Could you change the language in that, Bobby?
Just $50 for the, like, a business license
Yeah,
a year?
yeah.
It's currently what now?
It was 50, then it got moved to 35, and then we moved it back to 50, but we can't move it up that high. We have to go and increment 5% at a time.
So it's taking it $1.75 this year. And then $36.75 times following year. So it's gonna take a little while to get to 50.
Yes, it will.
I don't have any problem with that capping at 50. It'll
That'll take it to 38.58 next year, so. So we could cap it at 50, so you could put language in there to cap it at $50 this time. Okay, Commissioner Banks, with your.
No, it's my motion.
Oh, it's your motion, Commissioner
So
Burton.
what do we want to do? We want to, reflect the 5% increase rather than $50 fee.
With a change to the ordinance.
So how many years is it gonna take us to get to $50?
I think
Well, I think you
what
wanna
I
do
would
that.
suggest is it would be changed to $35 with a 5% increase each year, starting in 2023, not to exceed $50.
Okay,
I like that. Okay,
I like
I move to say what Bobby just said.
With
He said,
changes.
with changes.
the ordinance, bringing back the ordinance with changes, okay.
Okay, thank you.
No, I second
Okay.
it.
Do you have any other discussion? Okay, I'm gonna open it up for public comment. Does anybody have any comments on this? Seeing no public comments, I'm gonna close the public comments. Commissioners, we have a proper motion and a second. Karen, would you do a roll call for us, please?
Commissioner Burton,
Aye.
Commissioner Banks,
Aye.
Commissioner Bailey,
Aye.
Commissioner DeVito,
Nay.
Mayor Myers.
Aye. Thank you. Okay, approved. And then I was not, I took care of the thing before CRA, so I'm gonna go ahead and close out this meeting, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, I'm gonna close out this meeting, I'm gonna recess this meeting, and we're going to open up the CRA at this time.
Thank you, Mayor. The first item was the results of the RFP 2302. I had mentioned to you that we would seek a DEO grant to pay for half of the master plan. And the master plan probably costs around $100,000 to get a DEO grant. We're more successful if we apply for a matching grant, so we would match that. And then my recommendation is that we would move forward whether or not we got the grant. However, I discovered just the other day I missed the deadline for the grant. So I didn't want to bring the presentation sheet tonight. I canceled the presenters for tonight to talk about how we might fund the program, potentially bring them back next month to present to you their presentation. One of them didn't withdraw, so we just had 2 presentations tonight. But my request to you tonight is to consider, there's two options. We could just wait till next year's DEO cycle for the grant. What I'd rather do, since we're sort of flying without a master plan and vision, and we do need to update redevelopment plan. Mr. DeVito has mentioned many times that we don't have an implementation strategy, and we find a master plan. The process would take 8 to 10 months. Each of the presentations were either 8 or 10 months. So we would span 2 fiscal years. So my recommendation would be, we start it this summer, in the next couple months. We would pay for about a third of it in this fiscal year, and then we would pay for the rest in the next fiscal year. And I did create a slide to show you our budget. So any fiscal year wouldn't have to bear the burden of the entire project. So I just threw this together today. This is the budget we adopted for the current year, just to show you an idea of the revenue. Central was anticipating $103,000 in revenue. With leftovers the previous year, about $75,000. So this was, and that's gonna be hard to see with that speaker there. Mr. DeVito, can you see that around that speaker?
No, I can see the bottom. I'm sorry.
You slide it over.
That speaker's new.
Well, we backed up the screen a little bit, trying to make it bigger.
I guess the speaker's not new.
Help, can you see that column?
That helps.
So this is the this should say 22, 23 expenditures. We did modify the budget mid-year because of we did reduce it by about $5,000. So these are our expenditure lines. And then I projected next year a little bit of increase in overhead. And then professional services, putting $30,000 in there, and then reducing the repair and maintenance line accordingly. We don't have to reduce. This is showing only a very slight increase in revenue because we anticipate about $50,000 left over from this year. So we could still manage a grant program and our maintenance. And then the central would pay for about $30,000 of that. This is the North CRA. Again, we've spent almost none of this money. We're going to carry that forward, plus the new projected revenue for the North. The projected revenue this current year is about $74,000. So the North geographically is nearly as large as the Central. So it could pay another $30,000 towards the master plan. And then the South is very little, but it could contribute a little bit to the master plan, $5,000 or $10,000. And then in this current fiscal year, go back to this slide, this column, we still have we're expecting about $50,000 left in that fund. So we could fund a third of the master plan in the current fiscal year, and then we'll get new revenue after October 1st. So my request to you is we move forward, bring them in next month to present to you. You get another month to look at the notebooks we gave you, bring in the top firms to present to you, and then we proceed with all of them came in at about $100,000 because I told them we wouldn't exceed that amount. And we can still move forward because that process will take us nearly a year to get through to adopt a master plan. So the sooner we get started, the sooner we have it.
So these funds are set aside or would be done just to make a master plan?
For the master, yes, for the end to update our redevelopment plan, which is a statutory requirement.
Is it a 5-year, 10-year?
The vision plan would be potentially a 20-year vision for the future. Right now, for instance, the north and south corridors, we have no vision and very little plan. It just says pave dirt roads, bring broadband, help people find grants, essentially. The downtown's been kind of worked over. There is a kind of a vision in the redevelopment plan, but not for the corridors. So this would be a master plan, the vision, really for the whole city. It'd be the entire 17 corridor and the downtown of how we see ourselves in 20 years. It'll give us those short-term goals, mid-range goals, long-range goals to get there. Become a roadmap for us and we guide our redevelopment decisions.
Hang on. Yeah, let me ask, so Charles, let me ask you one question. If we apply for the grant next year, if we already start doing this process, can we even apply for the grant next year since we're already working on this, or is it?
We'd be done by the time
The
we
grant
finish
side
by the time the grant's up.
Okay, Commissioner DeVito.
Yes, I think it's a silver lining in the way that the deadline was missed because, I mean, quite frankly, I'm just looking at this on the screen. We have not had our statement of accounts or, our finance department because of the changes and the problems with Clarion is very behind. I think in the scheme of things, I would certainly feel better if we had that financial report that you're going to bring to us. I think it wouldn't hurt to make that evaluation next month and have it in front of us in paper as opposed to on the screen. And then bring the firms back maybe the following month. Because I think once they're standing here, I don't know. I think until we really look at our financials, I think it's premature to bring the firms in. And I'm very nervous not having any financial statements for the whole first quarter of the year. So I just think we need to get a better handle on it. And as well, we have our redevelopment grants to consider. I think that's gonna take us quite a bit of time. We have the school issue, which you just sent us a memo today, and I think we really need to discuss it tonight. That's a very significant issue in the middle of our town. And something's going to happen before we would get the plan done. So I think we have the finance issues and the school issue that need to be discussed, and maybe calling consultants in to look at their RFPs and talk to them would be better 2 months from now rather than next month. So that would be my recommendation. And as well, we have the land development code update going on. I think we need to be a little more deliberate, and we need to get a handle on what we've got so far. We don't have that.
How long are these RFPs?
Imagine 90 days.
Okay, commissioners, do we have any other discussion on this?
I can't even hear it now. This is what we have remaining for this year.
No, that's the adopted, this is the adopted expenditures, and then just did a kind of a projection. I increased the overhead a little bit, and then showed that we have a professional services line this year. We haven't used any of it. We bumped that up to go, each district would pay into that redevelopment plan, because it's for all the districts. And then we would just reduce this repair and maintenance. And then the thing about the grant line is, and we'll talk about it a little bit, you'll know what to put in there based on your decision-making leading up to that. If you adopt the changes, it becomes a deadline-driven competitive process. And what I'm recommending is, you mentioned the ARPA funds. We may end up not even needing CRA funds. We don't get enough applications to use up the ARPA funds we're proposing to use. So, for instance, we're willing to use $200,000 in ARPA funds, and we get $180,000 worth of applications. For next year, we could put zero in the grant line to help fund the master plan. You know, we got to kind of see what kind of response we get, because having the grants is one thing. For people to put together all the bids and work and be prepared to meet the deadline is another thing. So we may find we don't get enough applications to spend $200,000 or more. You know, you could put 40 you may want. We had $250,000 worth of applications, then you want 50,000 in the budget, but that would also be the north and the south CRA sharing that depending on the location of the applicant. So the applicant might be in one of those other districts, so.
Now, we need this master planning and redevelopment plan to receive the CRA money?
Well, the redevelopment plan is a statutory requirement, and we have one, so we're good. You're supposed to update it every 5 to 7 years. We're still within that.
Okay.
So putting that off isn't a problem. That's just the list. Like, if it's not in the plan, you can't spend money on it. So the vision and master plan is kind of saying, where are we going? You know, what's the end game? And are the decisions we're making moving us that way? And particularly the north and south CRAs, there's no vision or master plan, very little redevelopment plan, just a very short list of things we can do.
And so we get back to that, if it's not in the list, then nothing happens, right? So if we
You
don't.
can't spend redevelopment dollars on
You
it.
can't, okay. So nothing in the north and in the south basically remain the same, because there's not a lot of bill there, right? There's not enough to do anything with right now with the plan that we have.
The north is getting a pretty significant, it'll have close to $200,000.
So we still have the plans for that money.
Exactly. So one of the things we'll talk about tonight, yeah, just having that vision, and they do beautiful renderings and watercolor pictures before and afters, and really becomes kind of the inspiration, what it is we're working towards.
And we need that in the plan in order to move forward.
I believe so, yes. I think so.
That's
our map. That's our map.
That's the way I understand it. It's not in the plan, it won't happen.
The grant was a matching grant, correct? So we would
Grant
have,
was
yeah, so we would have had to come up with this anyway.
at least half of
Be
it.
there?
Yeah.
That's something.
Okay. What We are not under any particular pressure to make an immediate decision. I think you said the RFPs are good for 90 days.
I believe so, yeah.
Okay. We are under pressure to make the decision on how to spend $300,000 worth of ARPA funds for the benefit of this community. My suggestion is that instead of focusing on the RFP issue, that we move on, that we table it, that we discuss it further next month, and that we get on to our very important redevelopment plan for which the city manager has proposed that we include the ARPA money discussion, and I think that is very urgent. I would certainly hate to be the only town in Florida that sends back tens of thousands of dollars in ARPA money. So I'm quite anxious that we get on to that discussion.
Well, and for your comfort, there's other communities I've spoken to that are kind of in that situation.
Well, I don't want to
I
be
know,
in
I know, we don't want to
I don't
be
wanna be
one,
in
but
that
I also don't want people to think that we're out there by ourselves.
No, but I think that we can juggle both things. I think we're capable of juggling both things.
Okay, so you're okay with tabling this until next month?
My request is you approve having the presentations next month and make this decision next month. I can send out the financial report for the CRA to you in an email, so you have that information.
Okay. These were very impressive. I mean,
Yeah, sure.
when you
Very
look at them,
talented
they were very, very impressive. So I feel like a motion to table this until next month.
I'd make a motion to table.
Did we really need this meeting? Why didn't we just start, when we started, just say table everything until next
We
month?
only table really. So we have a motion, do I have a
I
second?
second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay.
This one said nay.
You said nay?
That's a nay.
Okay. Karen,
I got it.
I thought you recommended that we table it until next
2
month.
months.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Okay.
Next item is really an opportunity that has come to us. I had a meeting with the owner of the Lockside, which would be the restaurant taking over Sicily's north edge of town. Another very blighted property as you come in from the north, the first thing you see. And they are anticipating, by now they may have already received a building permit to begin renovation of that site. And they came up with the issue of they want to be a gas customer, which for us is wonderful. Restaurant commercial customer is the best, and a restaurant is the best commercial customer. But it turns out the line that was there had been not in use for so long, we were required to abandon it and cap it off. So the line has to be restored even to reach the property. And the estimated that's in your package is about $9,000. And so I met with the owner and expressed his concern and had to pay for that. And so I saw it as an opportunity, as an economic development type grant, where we say, look, because we get to use that line, our line, he'll have to pay to connect the restaurant to our line, but this will restore our line to the property from the mobile home park that's just to the south. And we pay for that, and then we let them know it's ready to go, and he can hook up. They're anticipating redeveloping that motel site with little cabins at some point in a future phase, and I think they may have gas heaters or something there as well. So the idea of bring it to the south edge of the property, just on the north side of the south driveway, and then he'll hook up from there and pay for his portion of it.
Okay.
So my request, we have an estimate that the way things have been going, my request would be a grant not to exceed $10,000. If you could approve that, we'll move forward and get paperwork from him.
Would that be eligible for any impact fees or something like that?
We still don't have impact fees.
I mean, that would be one of them that would certainly.
We looked at, Dave did a calculation for us. In about a year and a half, we'll recover the funds in his monthly bill.
So the question for
not to exceed 10,000, maybe 9,000.
That will not exceed 10,000. Okay, do I have a motion?
I'd like to make a motion to approve this redevelopment grant not to exceed $10,000 for 1124 Summit Street.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Commissioner, do you have any discussion?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I have a question about the timing of it. because construction has not yet started. So when would what would be the timing of, we would pay the gas department to do this work, correct, out of the North CRA fund?
Well, we have a contractor that's a directional board,
Okay,
so they would schedule it, I think it would be a few weeks before we could actually get in here and do it. And then we pay out the North CRA.
but what I'm saying is we would go ahead and do this now before he even starts construction on the property.
Yes.
But he's in the permit and he's getting his final permit, correct? And that-
Or has received
Or
it.
has received it.
Okay, but why would we not wait until he was, closer to building something?
I could ask him when he needs it, and we could base it on that. It's gonna be based on the provider. But if you wanna wait closer until the actual connection.
Right, because the reason I ask this is, things happen. And my second concern, and you and I discussed this, is that we don't have any guarantee that he will even open or stay in business. And my suggestion would be for some protection for the city, that he have to stay in business for a year. Or this would become a lien on, he agrees that this would be a lien on the property. So that if it was sold, we could either recover our money or we could use it as an incentive for the next buyer. We could always forgive it again. But I think we need some kind of protection for the city in the event that something happens and they don't operate the business.
We did talk about that, and she had a concern that we would spend the money and then nothing ever happens there, or they close up. Statistically, may very well not make it. My goal is to get that site redeveloped, and somebody will make it there. I could support, you never open, you've got to pay us back. We move forward and then you just give it up at some point, and,
Then we could put a.
but once they open, that means that the site's restored, the building's usable. If they close in a month, the next guy is ready to go in there and use the site. And it looks good from the road, theoretically. So if you want to put some payback in there, my recommendation would be, if they never get a CO, then they pay us back in 5 years or whatever some time frame.
Yeah.
He inspects build out, it takes 5 or 6 months. So it'd be nice if we had both ends of town, we had the RV park under construction and the restaurant under construction at the same time. So
I see it as a win for both you and us, because then we do have a site that's ready to go. And,
They've already done work on the dock and some other
Yeah.
on the outside.
I've done a lot of demo inside just to see what was there.
Didn't he used to own Cherry Blossom?
His uncle.
His uncle.
and it's a permit process too. I know he's been going through that permit process.
Over a year, yeah.
Yeah, so it takes a while, so, anyway. So currently, is that a recommendation that somebody has, because we have a motion on the table, so we would have to put that in here.
Right, so I would offer an amendment to the motion that whatever funds we expend on running the gas line to the property, that if they do not receive a certificate of occupancy, they agree that that amount of money will become a lien on the property in favor of the city.
Okay, so we have an amendment that we're going to have to address before we go back to our motion. So I'm gonna need a second on the amendment.
I second that.
Okay, we have, a motion, an amendment and a second. Do we have any other discussion? Please pull your, sorry.
This doesn't discourage him.
That's all I'm gonna say.
I wouldn't think it discouraged him. I think the guy would be happy that we give him the grant, and he's got every intention of getting the CO to him. I think it would be reasonable. I think if I was the owner and someone told me that, hey, I'll give you $10,000 to put gas in your backyard, but if you don't open, I want it back. I don't think I can problem with that at all.
I'll be checking.
So, okay,
And if it's not cash back, it's a lien.
it's a lien. So if he sells it, it would be,
But y'all, you know how to word it, so.
okay.
I wouldn't be afraid of that at all.
Karen, I'm gonna ask you to do roll call on the amendment, please.
Commissioner Burton?
Aye.
Commissioner Banks?
Aye.
Commissioner Bailey?
Aye.
Commissioner DeVito?
Aye.
Mayor Myers?
Aye. So let's go back to our motion. So we have a motion on the table. Do we have any further discussion on this motion? Karen, will you do roll call on this?
Commissioner DeVito?
Aye. Are we supposed to ask for public comment on business item?
We don't necessarily have to. We do on the public hearings, but not necessarily.
I voted aye.
Commissioner Bailey?
Aye.
Commissioner Banks?
Aye.
Commissioner Burton?
Aye.
Mayor Myers?
Aye. Okay. Thank you, Charles.
Thank you.
Italian gigantic.
Scott's.
Got it.
Oh.
Got it.
Fun to talk about.
That's why it's the block side,
There.
block side.
Oh.
Go ahead.
The next item is bringing back the changes to the redevelopment grant program. So I included that in your packet, but essentially this would become a competitive grant where we would advertise it in Waterville and people know that we have a grant deadline. We would have, my recommendation is to have $200,000 in ARPA funds available. And then we would determine if we needed to dig into CRA funds, depending on the number of applications. So the timeline I set up to give staff time to go through the applications and make sure maybe they need another bid on paint or whatever. So we did a June 1st deadline, and then we would come to the CRA board on August 10th meeting and give you a list. You would have in your packet. Here we have 25 applications, and we ranked them with our suggestion. The total amount comes to a total appropriation. And then you would do your own ranking, and then that would become part of the budget process. So as an example, if we needed CRA funds, then at the first reading of the CRA budget, September 14th, you would set the CRA budget line for grants at that meeting, and then you would adopt it at the second reading on September 28th. And then October 1, would be the green light. We'd start go, and the contracts would begin work. And we've opened it up where it'd be commercial or residential properties within the CRA. And I put the cap you talked about. So the criteria would be, there's evaluation criteria, which is it, we have a list of what I call targeted buildings. So either the building is very desirable from a historic standpoint, a beautification standpoint, or it's such a mess that it's actually dragging us down. And I'll show you a list of those. Or it's a contributing structure, a national register, or a local district. It's a local or national registered landmark. The economic benefit of surrounding properties and redevelopment properties. We look at the increase in ad valorem taxable value, the amount of improved square footage. If that project would spur additional redevelopment and private investment, so forth. There's a whole list there, the criteria. I have in here, it must be located in the CRA district. Now, the ARPA funds don't have that restriction. And as it works out, I believe nearly all of our commercial property is in a CRA district. There may be a few exceptions, one district or another. The ARPA wouldn't have that, but I have to check and see if we can apply that to the residential properties. So it just needs to be a property in the CRA to use CRA funds. Grants over $5,000 would require a 50% match. I'm still trying to get some little grants available. We can do little things without having to get a match. And then unless it's a contributing structure, national register or local historic district structure, or one of our targeted buildings, then you could reduce the match. It could be 25% or less. Beyond you, if you really want this project to happen, you can say, look, if you can put in 5%, we'll give you the 95%.
Take it to the board on an individual basis.
Each one, we'd say to you, this building really needs this work, and we might recommend zero match. You may say, no, you gotta put in 10%, you gotta put in 5%. The maximum would be $10,000 unless it's a targeted building. And you can up these if you want to. Those buildings we really want to be a $20,000 maximum. And then I mentioned the timeline to you before. So once we had the green light in October, we begin working we would pay the contractors directly. I'd get more comfortable that way. Unless someone, with what we have in our existing program, if you do the work yourself, we'll reimburse materials, we won't reimburse your labor. You can't bill us for your time. Someone may be a professional, they can do the work themselves. But now, if we do a match, it becomes a little more challenging to figure out what part they pay for and what part we reimburse in terms of a contractor. So we may end up, in that case, reimbursing an applicant directly and let them pay the contractors. It's not really dividable. You pay the painter half his money and we'll pay him the other half. You have to figure that out. That's the challenge of a matching grant. So let me show you the property. So I looked at properties that we would really hate to miss, because I've been in communities where we write a lot of checks and we seem to never hit the buildings we were really hoping for. This is going to be these little ones. I have big pictures, so don't worry. So I looked at the central CRA. There are a lot of historic buildings, interesting or prominent buildings, a number of messy buildings. And so I'll show you these individually. But it's most of our building stock because the central CRA is very important, particularly on the highway frontage in central. So we dig in. These are the individual buildings that you're all familiar with. These are buildings we really want to incentivize them to apply so they get a little better deal. They get a little higher amount, a little less match. Hopefully that'll bring them to the table. This one's a beautiful building, needs very little work. This one, we've actually done work over here on this little building, not on this building. This is a great building. Another great, this one's actually commercial over retail, residential, which is kind of backwards. But a great building. We've done a significant amount of work on this building. This building, we've done exterior work. I'd love to facilitate something going in there with some interior work.
Are they doing anything with that building, huh?
Storage. There's a lot of storage.
No, I think we should pass an ordinance that there's no storage or.
Well, our new code, storage will not be allowable use in there. This one's, I believe, been gutted on the first floor, so I hate to miss that building. This one has been painted, but they need some work. It's currently also storage. This building has been gutted inside. Great building. Obviously, this is a great jewel in the community. Love to be able to help incentivize that. This one doesn't need work, but it's. I just wanted to identify it as a beautiful structure. Again, none of our main anchors downtown, wonderful building.
Why did they paint that blue one? It's 3 bananas, always been yellow. No blue bananas.
Could be a big yellow, yeah, could have been yellow. So this is actually an interesting building, architecturally, very unique building. And the one next to it, not great, but it's very prominent. And I'd be willing to pay to paint that some other color.
Yeah, that should have never.
100%. I'd go up there myself. Again, this is very prominent. It's something that, we actually have murals here. We don't highlight those much, but we have a set of murals there. Again, very prominent building. We have a rendering, actually, that shows you all of creating outdoor seating out here with beautiful umbrellas and so forth. These, very prominent. These are somewhat lighted to really use the TLC and a little spruce up. Again, this is also a very prominent corner. Very unique building. It did a
He tried.
He couldn't reach up there.
I talked to him, I watched him, and bless his heart, he just couldn't get it up there.
Again, this little Baja Taco here, wonderful business. Alamigo's a wonderful business. This is a cool building. It doesn't get much attention, but imagine neon all over this and a burger joint in there or something,
Car hops.
Car hop,
On roller
yeah.
skates.
I mean,
They have one like that in front of Dina's Beach, the gas station in front of
Yeah,
Dina's Beach. It's
I
a
think we're
wonderful
so used to
breakfast
it,
and dinner.
it's really a fabulous design, very unique and interesting to us. So the south geographically is tiny. It's just, it doesn't cover much ground, but there are some buildings there. This is actually a brownfield that has a monitoring station, so we're probably all familiar with that. But the building could use some TLC. This is a very cool old gas station building.
Yeah.
Really cool, very prominent. Love it. We love to always gas stations participate in fixing them up.
Charlie, what about the, going north, Chinese restaurant?
It's coming up. Of course, this one on there, maybe a carrot, again, to identify it as a target. So in the north, of course, the plaza itself, actually got some renovation at one point, but we did some renderings where we show outdoor seating here. We'd love to incentivize that, where Spanky's could actually have larger capacity and it would liven this up, and then we would love to see tree islands out here and so forth. And then their parking lot is just in horrendous condition. And this building looks abandoned. We have a running lien on this, over $200,000. So we're working from the code angle with the stick.
Yeah.
But if we had a carrot, it might help move things along. And then I want to point this out, Harry Banks Park, the north side of Grove, these residential properties are in the North CRA. There's this weird spurt. It's actually this side of Grove over here. And then it switches over to this side. It comes right out there. And there are a couple of well-maintained houses and some very blighted houses in there. But again, a grant program could just help go through, and at least the curb appeal, could be addressed, because they're in the North CRA. They are eligible for CRA funds for those projects. That's the last slide I have. So that's just a list. We would say, look, you can get more, and there's less match, because we want to make sure we get those properties. We can tweak that list over time. We could come in 3 months from now. We forgot this building, and we'd love to get that building fixed up. And so I think with these changes, kind of see what you never really know until people start applying and you realize, oh, we need to modify the grant. So when we open it up, if you approve this, and we have the deadline, and we get everything in, the first thing that may happen is we'll get a request to extend the deadline. So we'll bring that back to you, and maybe we only got 10 applicants. Let's go ahead and extend the deadline, see if we will encourage some more people to come in. So then you'll look it over, and you may discover in reviewing it, some glaring revisions that may need to be made. When you realize we need to focus this down, or the reverse, we need to open this up some more. So my request, my recommendation is we approve these, go forward. So the grant money we have about $20,000 there. Going back to the previous item, we can put that towards the master plan in this fiscal year. We have this program, which would be supplemented by $200,000 worth of ARPA funds. That leaves about $125,000 or $130,000 in ARPA. That I think is a broader conversation about our parks. I mentioned the fire hydrants. The chief came to me and said we need about $65,000 worth of fire hydrants. Because some of ours are from the 20s. That's, I think, another meeting. Tonight, if you can preliminarily commit to the $200,000, that's not CRA money, so it's actually the commission decision.
But the CRA money will come about the October time too as well. That'll be all one pot.
You'll budget for that. So you may find out we didn't get enough applicants. Like the ARPA money handled it, so we've got more money for other things in the. And I'm going to show you some slides.
This is in the current fiscal year.
Yeah, current fiscal year we've got
That'll be
20,000.
next fiscal year. This is the current fiscal
Next year we'll get another load of approximately $80,000. So Central, I think it is.
That's in October, right?
October, yes. That's when we'll be replenished. And we'll have, I don't know how much we'll have left over. If we start the master planning process, we won't have as much left over. But the first step is to quantify this, get it out to the public, get people working on their grant applications to get them into us. That would give them, this is early April, so almost 2 months.
How are we gonna notify these people, Charles?
Well, we can put a note in the water bill, put it in my monthly update, put it on social media, on the website.
So we're gonna broadcast it out.
We're gonna broadcast it out.
I like that.
Hey, commissioners, do you have any comments on this?
Yes, I was trying to get Commissioner Bailey's attention. I have some suggestions, for some tweaks that we might want to consider. Commissioner Bailey, you gotta keep passing these down. Okay, so keep it busy. Sorry, but you're the next one, so I gotta ask you to do it. And it's one for Charles.
Charles hasn't seen it yet.
No. No, so brainstorm.
Did you have yours? Do you have a copy?
Okay.
Did you get a copy?
What did I hand you? Oh, I handed you mine. Okay, here, take that one.
Bobby, did you get a copy?
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Bobby.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So, first of all, if you'll just look at the second page, that's a little rough chart. Just turn to the second page, this rough chart. Okay, and I just roughed this out. It shows fund source, there's 3 fund sources up there, ARPA, CRA, Better Place Plan. The first line is the amount available, so hopefully we would fill this grid in. This is for future decisions, but this is roughly how you can do it. Then the next section is restrictions and options, and these different funds can be used for different purposes. ARPA, obviously deadline spent by the end of 2024. CRA has to be spent according to state law. They all have different restrictions. So this is just a template for us to use, and obviously it would make a better table, just to show, like, for example, Better Place Plan. We can use that for parks, law enforcement, infrastructure, all that. So that's just for us to use next time when we consider other funds. And
Yeah,
do a better and more complete
Yeah, I
job.
want to stay on where we are right now.
No, I'm just saying that this is a format, that it applies to what I'm about to say.
Okay.
So, first of all, I think that we should not use ARPA funds for parks improvement. ARPA funds, the reason is ARPA funds are the only funds that we have that can be used for pure economic development. They're not restricted to any place in the city. And I believe, when I was in Tallahassee last week, I talked to the mayor of South Bay. I think they use their ARPA funds for residential programs, for residential grants. I think they gave funds to every single household in the city. He described it to me in South Bay. They've already expended theirs. They could explain to us what they did. But anyway, we have other funds that we can use for parks that probably, I don't know, I wouldn't commit to that at this point. The ARPA funds, it seems to me that we could, since we have the program already done, that we could actually make it 2 separate programs, one ARPA and one CRA. Could we not put this out and begin accepting applications as early as May 15th for ARPA?
Whatever we want.
Right, I'm saying, I think we should do them separately, and I think we should start ARPA as soon as possible. One modification I would make is that any funds that we grant going to a structure that is a contributing structure to the historic district, that we put the restriction, no renovation should be funded that would impair the status as a contributing structure. I think we need that. I don't think the city should pay for renovations of any kind that would impair their qualifying as a contributing structure. So that's really my main point. Oh, and as well, I think with ARPA or CRA funds, historic churches and nonprofit owned buildings are not necessarily ineligible, are they?
Typically, a CRA often will not use CRA funds because they say they don't contribute to the TIP. I don't agree with that philosophy. I think if they're blighted, they're tearing down, they're blighting the neighborhood.
Well, Right, and so
So we don't fix it.
we have at least 2, if not 3 historic buildings, that 2 are churches. So I would broaden it a little bit to include, buildings, whether they're a historic church or a nonprofit, as long as they contribute, to the historic district, because they need it. And then I have a question. Could we use ARPA funds to pay for, the architect services that are needed for the Newman Lodge?
I think so. So we've applied for the feasibility study we did for the ambulance station. That was an ARPA project.
Right, and do you have any idea, ballpark what the cost would be for those architect services?
Well, I'm encouraging the concerned citizens to apply for a $50,000 small matching grant.
I saw that, but you know, the problem with the small matching grant is you apply now, if you get it, would have to be appropriated by the 2024 legislature, and you wouldn't receive a dime, even if you make the cut, until after July 1st, 2024. So that's over a year. Those grant processes are very, very slow. So my thought is, you would be ahead of the game. I don't know how much architectural services are.
I know when we were working on this building, the architect said generally their cost is about 8% of the project. So, you know, if your project's $1 million thing, you can calculate $80,000 in architectural cost as a kind of a ballpark. So if it took $100,000 to renovate that building, the plans would be about 8% of that.
Okay, so potentially it's a $10,000 cost. Because the reason I bring that up is that it's just, the building has been waiting a long time, and it's an incredible delay to apply for. I mean, a small matching grant is good if you don't have other kinds of money. But anyway,
I'm gonna call a point of order here, because this is not part of our agenda tonight to talk ARPA money, is it?
Yes.
yes, it's in the proposal
Yeah.
to spend $200,000.
It is.
What I am,
This is just a little, I think we've gotten a little, I appreciate the time that you put in this and the thought you put in this. I'm a little confused as to how you're trying to apply this
You already got to
Okay.
something.
to what we have here. It's,
okay, I will boil it down.
please.
Okay, my suggestion is that we create 2 programs on the exact guidelines that Charles has proposed. But one would be funded by ARPA money, and one would be funded by the CRA money. For both of the programs, I would add the amendment that funds going to a contributing structure to the historic district. The renovations can't impair the status as a contributing structure. And that at least for the ARPA money, that we make historic churches and nonprofits eligible. That'd be it.
I'm not sure we can do that with those because it is more for the economic development. I know it's but for the ARPA funds, wouldn't it be more for economic development? And I'm not sure if the churches would apply, so we'd have to check on that. We just have to.
They
make
are
sure.
eligible for CRA funds currently for our redevelopment.
But not necessarily, I'm not sure if they would apply for ARPA funds.
Well, that we open them, basically that for whatever funds they're eligible for, that we include them. Because those buildings are in need.
Would those buildings then put in the application for the CRA
Yeah.
fund then?
They could apply for CRA
But
if
right.
they're not available for ARPA.
Okay, but under what we have before us only includes commercial and residential properties. It does not include historic churches or nonprofits, correct?
Well, if you look at ineligible in the grant document,
Yes.
it only says government offices and agencies, properties that are delinquent with, unless the government offices, if they're a for-profit tenant, are eligible. Properties that are delinquent with property taxes, and properties that have unresolved code enforcement liens, unless we're addressing the code enforcement issue.
Okay, well, I'm looking at your memo on page 1. It says commercial and residential properties.
Yeah, I just didn't add that.
Okay.
They're eligible.
So the churches
The churches are.
Are-
Churches and nonprofit, because the building is what's blighted and bringing down
okay.
the street.
And they can put an application like everybody else.
Yes.
That takes care of that.
So, okay, that takes care of that. So the remaining issue is, essentially provide that funds going to a contributing structure not impair the eligibility. And I think that we should make it 2 separate programs.
Repeat that, go back and repeat what you just said about the contributing structure.
Okay, so if we give money to a structure that is a contributing structure in the historic district, the funds not be used for anything that would impair its status.
Would remodel it.
Okay, I'm sorry, I was,
In other words, you can't eliminate historic qualifying features.
okay, but Charles, with the 2 different funds, with the CRA and the ARPA, can you weigh in on that for us, please?
Well, I'm just thinking about this, 'cause I hadn't thought about it before. So if I have a building, I guess I could apply for both. In case I don't make the CRA cut, I could make, or vice versa. You know, how would I, as an applicant, figure out, I apply for both, hoping to get both, but give us the option of saying, well, we recommend you fund this one out of ARPA and not CRA. I think we could probably accomplish that with one program, where we bring them all to you and go.
Okay, well, my main concern is you have a timeline laid out here, but we have the ability to disperse ARPA funds much sooner than the CRA funds.
Well, the challenge with both of them is the applicant side of getting bids by May 15th. I think June 1st is even gonna be tricky for people. They'll need to start tomorrow, you know, you approve this tonight, to get 2 bids, at least 3 bids, quantify the work.
I guess my main point is that if we get applications and bids and they qualify for ARPA, I guess if you don't want to divide it into 2 programs, if that's not workable, I don't see any reason that we would delay releasing funds if we get eligible applications.
Let me just run through, they come in, and it's all in order, bring it to you in June. But it's competitive, so you need to compare them with each other.
I thought that's what we were gonna do. That was the whole crux of it, is that's why we were changing this, is because we were gonna have, this is the deadline, everybody
not
comes
first come,
in,
first served.
not first come, first served.
Wow.
So, and that,
I think that's what we agreed to do.
and I think that,
Yeah, we did.
and I have to agree that I know that we've been working on getting all the things for a renovation for a year.
Okay.
And so, and that's all that, I mean, I'm just getting all the window quotes in. So, I think that May is a little too soon. And so.
June may even be, we'll try it.
I mean, June 1st is even gonna be difficult for the application deadline. But we have to have deadlines, so, and if we find at that time in June 1st, it's maybe, I mean, we have a qualifier in here that we have enough people that come to us and say they're still trying to get this.
I can come to you at the June meeting and say, I'm requesting we give them another one.
State does it all the time with their grants. So.
Well, what about the historical part of not doing the contributing structure? Could we take that on a case-by-case basis of when a historical thing brings it in, rather than, oh gee, we're gonna do away with the floors or something that made it over 100 years old? Can't we take those by a case-by-case basis on
That's the point.
historical?
I think she
Well, we
wants
can
to
do that anyway, then, right?
She wants to avoid being able to take case by case. Because the other side is you guys go look, go, you know what? You could decide like, this is gonna wreck this historic building, we're a no. What she's saying, if we put it in there from the beginning, you can't even apply if you're gonna wreck the historic nature, you're gonna remove the features and modernize or call remodeling the building. And you can always deny that, and you look like, I think this is not appropriate for this historic building. And if you make a criteria, then you can base your decision on that. If our criteria clearly says, you can't make this not eligible for, you know, if you do this project, if you rip the front porch off of this house that traditionally had a front porch, you're gonna undo what's historically significant about it, so you're.
That just doesn't qualify for the grant.
That's what, yes, what she's asking, we make it.
That's what I'm saying, we need to.
I mean, wouldn't that be that way anyway?
No,
No, it wouldn't necessarily, we say, I want to modernize and close in my porch and put air conditioning in the units and then you guys, we could deny them at the application process, this is not, you're not eligible, you don't meet the criteria,
That's what I meant.
wouldn't even get to you guys.
And I think that, I mean, you're gonna have to determine too, without ARPA funds, that, I think we kind of muddled the water too, if we have a CRA and we have an ARPA fund, but you're gonna have to find out, can the ARPA funds also be used for those that might not, like the
I'll
church?
check it tomorrow, there's a ruling that came out.
Okay. So, commissioners?
so do we need a motion for this program?
Yes, there's a motion to approve.
Okay, I move that we approve the redevelopment grant program proposed by our city manager for CRA funds and $200,000 of ARPA funds. With the addition that no grant funds may be used for historic buildings and for any purpose that would impair their status as a contributing structure to the historic district.
I'll second that.
Go ahead, Commissioner
I
Banks.
didn't quite understand.
Okay, basically, to approve the grant program with the addition that we don't give grant funds for changes that would impair a structure still qualifying as a contributing structure in the historic district. In other words, you don't go in and remodel a historic building that contributes to the historic district in a way that would take it out of historic status,
And how do we determine,
ruin a feature.
how do we determine if those changes?
Secretary of Interior Standards.
Secretary of
yeah.
Interior Standards, so we would use those standards.
In other words, you don't use city money to destroy the city historic district.
Oh, okay, yes.
You can't put bright lights
In
or.
other words, you can't change these format.
Yes, yeah, you have to keep the integrity of it.
Like the green
I got you.
building across the street, we probably
There you
should paint it green.
Yeah, right.
Okay, so we have a motion, do we have a second? Did you second, you seconded it?
No, I just got one more question.
Okay.
We're talking about, historic standards now, correct? That they would have to fit historic standards.
Well,
You're saying we get that, well, list of historic standards.
the proposed change, which is saying is if you want to get a house or a commercial building that's historic, and the changes would make that ineligible to meet the Secretary of Interior standards, it become no longer, get removed as a contributing structure or would hurt its historic status.
But
We
to
won't
keep
fund
it
that.
into a historic type building in order to, let's say, fix it, repair it, whatever, we'd have to do it using historical.
No, you just can't do anything that would modify in such a way it would no longer qualify for historic designation.
What would that be? That's why I'm trying to get at. What would qualify as something that would not be a historic qualification? What would you do to a building so that it wouldn't meet that standard?
Tear out the wraparound porch.
Tear off a porch,
Not
put a fake facade on a commercial building, put a cheese grater over the,
So if I buy a home and it's got a wraparound porch, I guess it's got a wraparound porch and so I would have to basically
pay for it yourself,
rebuild that porch
if you want to grant funds.
If you want the grant.
if you want the grant.
Yeah.
Yes, we'd help you do that, but if you're gonna tear it off and change the whole look of
But
the
I
house.
just want to make sure I'm clear on that.
Yeah, it wouldn't stop anybody, you just wouldn't pay for it.
So they don't do anything that changes the integrity of that.
Yes.
Yeah, we have to be careful because this came up.
That's the truth, Jeff Road.
Yes. I'll give you public comment in just a moment.
See, we gotta put that bill and all that back up there.
Right.
Because you take it down, take that steeper down, that gonna change that. field.
Yeah, we wouldn't fund that, we would.
They would knock it off to them, do they just don't get grant.
But you have a building, the question came up, I'm just throwing this out there, we also have to be careful because the other question came up, that we have a building that we were gonna paint, already been painted as a brick building and it was questioned, it wouldn't get in the way of that, correct?
Correct, it's already been painted,
Okay,
just repainting.
okay. Any other comments before I open up the public comment? Okay, I'm gonna open it up for, additional factual testimony. I don't have to do that, I'm sorry. Public comment. Do we have any public comment on this? Please come forward, state your name and your address if you will, please. Karen?
Alice McCoy, 315 North Summit. That's why you have a historic board as part of your planning and zoning, is that anytime there is a change that's to be made, that it go before that board, and that board then studies whether or not it will change their status with the National Registry or something. I mean, that's a resource that you already have. You set it up in your bylaws. So you need to use that, and if you just put that in, word it like that it has to be approved or recommendation by that board, then you don't have to get into whether or not it does it.
So it's basically all about the grant money, though, if you want the grant money, you need to keep it historically sound.
Yes.
Do we have any other speakers on this? Okay. So commissioners, we currently have a motion, proper motion and a second. I'm gonna go ahead and if there's no further discussion, we'll do roll call here.
Commissioner Burton?
Aye.
Commissioner Banks?
Aye.
Commissioner Bailey?
Aye.
Commissioner DeVito?
Aye.
Mayor Myers?
Aye. So passes. Thank you, Charles, for that.
That was well done.
Well done.
And
Okay, so now we're gonna go to our entry signs.
Anything with a bit over your head. Stop, take care of that.
So I brought this item forward because we can fund two of these out of the CRA. Part of our brand new package was new entry signs. This is the whole package showing wayfinding and entry and park signs, banners and so forth. And I did mention in my cover memo about the west, as you come in from the west, there's just a little green sign that says city limits. So we consider an entry over there. We did have the sign of the north blow down in the recent storms. The one in the south is still standing. So this is what we got this is our branding guide. It's just a way to guide us what might be possible. So I took the shape of this building and I went to a firm that does signs. This is a rendering they did, branding folks did, showing it in place as a monument style sign with different colors than you see here. So this is all within our color palette. So this is what the firm, I asked for brick. I love brick, red brick. This turned out was faux brick. But even with faux brick, this leaves a space. We could put, event this, Catfish Festival this week. Everybody who has signs could make them to this specific sign size and then put them on the entry features. That looks very nice. But this is about $25,000 sign. So that was a little sticker shock, but it's a great sign. It'll be a beautiful entry. I worked with him on some variations on it with the color palette and so forth. It's just, I think it looks great. This is without the brick, and we just did stucco. I wanted to try to bring the price down. Still, only came down a little bit, maybe 15 to 18,000 still. And various color options. These are the school colors. I really like that, even embracing the high school and I see that the elementary school uses the same colors as well. So this is the monument sign. All of them have room there. And then this is design signs up in Palatka.
did, this is a hand drawn, they would basically, they worked off of this, type. They would create this sign, and there's 2 posts, and they would raise the posts up. So we could actually tie a banner under it, an event banner. And this is about, a $2,500 version of a sign, or aligning with what we had out there, where it's, PVC posts. It'd be a 4x4 inside the PVC posts, holding the sign up. And so it effectively looked like this, but with legs, and then, this is just the same thing. So this is disappointing. These are wonderful. So, I think this is the beginning of a conversation probably on how we do, I'd like to have something we're proud of. People come into town and beautiful entry feature that'll be out there for decades.
I have a suggestion.
Okay.
Go ahead. That's a brick sign.
No, it's a faux
It's a
brick.
faux brick, they etch it.
The concrete.
Why not make it a brick sign, is what I'm saying, real brick. And the reason why I say that, I know that there's a couple associates of mine that lay brick for a living. And they're gonna tear down parts of the middle of the building, taking those real brick of what they do and putting that there, and they add a little historical or story value to it. And I guarantee you that they would set up the wall there. And I've got metal cutting stuff and a vinyl, we can make that a metal sign, something like that, maybe even rusty colors with the thing behind it. I have a CNC machine. We can make that whole thing, put it together for just what you're wanting for about $5,000.
Unfortunately,
We can do business with
We
our
can't do
commissioners.
business.
Well, that's okay, but these guys are not my associates or something. We all know a bricklayer or something who can take the bricks and do that.
As an
You
option,
can get a sign
do
to
it
it in
in-house.
town
Yeah.
to do that part. You don't have to do it with me.
Piece it out.
What I'm saying is, you could piece that out to use the brick from Miller to have it built, and I guarantee it won't take $5,000. And have the sign company cut it for you for the 15. You can make that whole thing there, carve it out, have it with the real brick from the school that's here. Second doing a brick, I know for under $7,000.
And design signs, this is a hand painted, what they're proposing is a hand painted sign, they still do old fashioned way. On a sort of a coated metal, so it could actually be, another idea is to work with them and a bricklayer to do the brick.
Well, that's what I'm saying, you take them and
Put the sign.
repurpose brick from the school. I will bet you could get it for nothing. And have them take all the bricks and do all 4 signs in each part of the thing, and have a little history. These bricks came from the Miller School historic, where it was before. And instead of faux brick, have the real stuff.
I know,
Sorry,
you
which
just,
school?
you've just created some, I understand, and I think you're absolutely right, that if something was to happen and they had to do that, but what you've just said is that when they tear it down, and we've got people, we just did a resolution hoping that they.
No,
I know, they're just having a little bit, yes.
Let me correct that, I'm sorry.
That's
The
okay.
bottom line was, they're gonna tear down some buildings that are brick. And being able to get those rather than them just hauling them off would, it would let you have them rather than taking the thing and haul them off and making these signs. I think they're very attractive, but I think you get $25,000 for that. Outrageous.
I didn't like it either.
But I mean, the design, I think the brick and the colors and stuff, I think it's awesome. I just think we could have a little story of the school when they do that to it, or any building around if they tear down brick. Okay, let's just forget the school. You can buy repurposed brick for 5, 10 cents a piece.
I could come back with, a brick estimate, just to do the L shape. And then we already know what designs would charge us for the sign.
But then they could slide it in there, they could
Yeah.
slide it in there.
I think we can get exactly what you want cheaper.
But I am gonna say this, Charles, and I know I harp on you all the time, and you and I will never come to an agreement. Never. That to me is just, it's blah. It's nothing, when I come into town, I mean, I look at our logo and I love it, it's bright, it's brilliant. I come into town and I looked at that, now I like that. I mean, I do like that, that's,
I like that.
it's brighter, it's color, that gold is a crisper gold.
And that's what Designs was working off of, and they recommend that.
But now that's me, but I love color. I mean, I live in a turquoise house. So I love color, and you and I, thankfully, we agree to disagree, but we have this battle constantly on color in his office.
Mayor, can I
Yes.
make a comment? Okay, number one, this is something that I would be more comfortable sending to the Historic Preservation Board. It's kind of an aesthetic issue. My first reaction is that the brick does not really represent the aesthetic of Crescent City. I think that color scheme fits in better. But I think the brick somehow is out of character. I would like to get more comment on this, but I'm with you, I don't particularly like the brick. It costs more. We're not in any particular rush on this, are we?
That's why it's not a decision point, it's just,
Yeah, he just
I figured
agreed with
that
us.
we kicked the can, so it brought it up to start that process. Start kicking.
Well, I certainly, for various reasons, the mayor likes color. That certainly seems to blend in with our environment better. It looks,
I'm not saying I don't like brick. I could see brick around that. You have to be a little visual. I could see brick around that. And what you're looking at is you're looking at a rendering, so the brick's not gonna necessarily look like this. So the brick can be a little different. I could see brick around that if they want brick. Whatever you put within that brick needs to have vibrancy to it.
This is
in my
less
opinion.
expensive than if we have brick. This
Yeah.
is much less expensive.
Yeah, oh, I know, I'm fine with, I do like that, very much so.
I think the color is better, so where do we go from here?
Well, I have an estimate on the one from Designs that was, I think it was 2,500 to 2,800, somewhere in there. And they could do this. They were recommending this color palette, this design. I had talked to them about raising it up so we could put but if you prefer it sitting on the ground, might be a little more to put that slab down there and set it right on the ground. But we could get this produced in short order.
They could raise it, you think they could raise it up on the PVC?
The point was, we wouldn't have the giant droopy banners out there. People could stretch it tight underneath and fireworks, this date or Cinco de Mayo or Catfish Festival.
How big is,
Well, our sign code only allows 10-foot height.
I don't know how,
Hang on, let me see.
and I might have seen that, and I just didn't catch it. Because you look, so if
It's
you're.
9.5 feet, is that 8.5 or 9.5 feet? Let's see if Designs have it. I think I clipped it off.
It's 4 by 8 by 10.
It's off the left side, it's on the wall over there.
So really what they could do, if you did it within the dimensions of a standard banner size across a 2 by however far you did, you could have them raise that up, those posts up, and you could put hooks on inside and not have anything in there. So if there's nothing there, there's nothing there, but if they have a banner there, you have a banner there.
Yeah, it'd be about
Along the border on the
2 foot,
bottom.
Yeah,
about 2 foot height. Stretch a banner across the bottom.
Yeah.
Whatever's going on.
you see, because there's gonna be times when we're not gonna have a banner there. We don't need a banner there, and then you don't want an old banner there. But this would at least keep it tight, keep it on there, and you could just put those, eye hooks on them, on the inside of that, to hold those. I guess this is starting, so you can get an idea. Will they give us paint samples prior to?
Well, they'll take it from the Pantone palette, those.
Well, everybody's taking other things from that Pantone, and it just never comes out looking like that.
They'll come off of that Pantone palette.
Your Pantone is very different from my Pantone.
We have not used gold and the black.
And again, this is not, I mean, this is just my input, this is a commission decision, so it's not, it would be a commission decision on the color. That's just my.
Well, there's nothing I can bring back from design. They gave us this drawing and a proposal to do it for less than $3,000 per sign.
And that would get our signs up, and we have signs in 3 different areas.
Yeah, well, the one on the west side, I could take that out of a better place. Couldn't take it out of the
No,
CRA. The south, we could pay for the one at the south end. The north, we pay for this one.
So for under $10,000 in total from the CRA and from the other funds, we could have.
CRA would be less than $6,000, and the better place would be less than $3,000.
Hey, Commissioners, do we want to go ahead with this now, or do we want to have him explore? Charles, what would you like to do?
I'm not sure what else to bring you.
Okay.
Well, for one thing, I would like to have specific costs, and I think we really need to have, we're gonna have those budget numbers before us, as well as we have quite a few expenditures. You mentioned we need $70,000 worth of fire hydrants, is that not correct?
60.
About $65,000.
Okay, I think that it's more appropriate to make these expenditure decisions while looking at the budget as a whole with other needs. So I think that's what we should do.
So we can bring it back to us at the next meeting.
Yeah.
That. If everybody else is in agreement with that, unless you want to go ahead and somebody wants to make a different motion. Okay, then let's go with that. Okay. So at this time, I'm going to go ahead, if it's okay, I'm going to close out CRA.
Mayor, I have one thing I want to say about CRA. And it's been several months ago. But we had the owner of one of our longtime businesses pass away. It was Alan Glenn. He owned the music store for many years. I don't think we ever acknowledged, his family resides here, his wife, Sheila Glenn. Is it possible for us to, acknowledge his passing with a letter of condolence to the family?
Commissioner DeVito, that is absolutely, and I think we all do that probably on a personal level. I stopped by the house and I spoke to Keely myself, but, what was advised to me some time ago when I first started, because I was about that, that we do that with everybody, and even like Pearson even post, in memory of, they were there for the family of, whoever was lost. And it was brought to my attention that you ultimately leave somebody out, unfortunately. And you get somebody's feelings get hurt. So that's just something to think about, with when we go down that road. I mean, I absolutely, and I really hadn't thought about it that way. But then somebody else comes in and says, well, you didn't recognize my passing of my family member who was part of the business, at some point in time. And I know it just kind of, you get down the slippery slope with that. And so, not that I'm not saying by any means, but that's for the commission to decide, and who's gonna write the condolence letter.
Well, Mayor, a lot of families don't want you to do that. Really do. As a pastor, I get people to tell me don't do it.
Well,
But see, that's on a religious basis.
Yeah.
It's not on a city basis. They rather for you not to do it. They want to grieve within themselves, just the family. They don't want.
It's not that we're not acknowledging that, and we appreciate you bringing that up, but commission, it's your will. So
Well, if nobody's for it, that's fine with me. My thought was it's something that hopefully the CRA manager would do on her own. That we should at least acknowledge the business has been there. But if y'all don't think it's appropriate, then so be it.
Well, I mean, I'm not saying, I understand, but I don't want you to, for anybody to interpret that we're being heartless about this in any way, because we're not, which is saying that we have to be very careful. Did you hear the discussion, Charles?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Probably about 5 months ago.
Yeah, I think.
Or January.
January.
Yeah. Well, so, sorry, I mean, if we don't want to acknowledge our businesses or whatever, take note of when they close or pass, that's fine. I don't think it really matters whether they die or close or move away. But if we're gonna have a CRA, I think that we should pay attention to our businesses and the people who own them. But we have a lot of other things to discuss, so if it's not something that, is catching anybody.
And again, that's your interpretation, that's your interpretation, okay?
Yes.
That's not how any of us, I don't think, I know I don't feel that way, but that's your interpretation, that's not, by us not sending a letter, that's not how, we're not discarding them, so. Okay, Commissioner, are we okay with, does anybody else want to weigh in on this, or? Okay, thank you for bringing it to our attention, Commissioner.
Sure, and I wasn't suggesting putting it on private sign. But anyway, that's good.
Okay, with that, we're gonna go ahead and I'm gonna close out CRA and open back up our city commission meeting.
Thank you, Mayor. The next item, actually, I think was at the mayor's request to discuss the contents of our meeting minutes. We think we have a consensus that we're gonna pare them down. Tonight's minutes were very pared down. But then we get a lot of changes, and I want to distinguish between errors in the minutes, which is spelling, wrong name, typo, whatever, versus changing, adding to the contents of the meeting. The most recent, we still have some minutes to approve that we have brought back with 3 pages of changes proposed, primarily of content. So you have a stack of sample from other communities. This is Diane up on the screen. And you can see it's very difficult to read, but essentially it's just the title, the motion, the action, the result of the vote. Even when it talks about reports, it just says reported. So if you want to know what was on the consent agenda, you pull up the agenda. If you want to know what the discussion was, there's a recording. So the minutes are just the sort of the legal actions that occurred at the event. Down here you see it says report given for the different reports, also even the commissioner's reports, clerk report in this case. So you have an example of that to land in your packet. We just need, so when content questions are brought back to us, we have to go, Karen needs to go back and listen to the whole thing again to make sure they were actually, that they're accurate. So if you make a motion just to accept as all the changes that are given, we really need to table it and have her go back and listen again and double check. That's what was said. So our request, to save us doing everything twice like that, is that we use an example of the land, and there's some others in your packet where it's very skimmed down and people need more information. We have both an audio file, just audio, and we have a YouTube video. You can sit and scan forward to where you want. You can listen and you can create your own record if you choose to. So our recommendation is to give us direction to come back with a policy or however Bobby's comfortable with us handling this, where we have this kind of stripped down minutes that really give us the information we need, the record of the decisions we made, and then we still have audio and video recordings of everything else that was going on.
Okay. Commissioners, do we have any discussion on that? I mean, you've read through the minutes today, and then you've read through the minutes of the past. And getting through the minutes of the past. And even those, I'm sure as we read through those, we take it, on Karen's word, because they're very lengthy, that's exactly what was said. And, my concern, and that's what I shared at the last meeting, and Bobby, I've spoken to you about that, from a legal standpoint, we possibly could even get ourselves into some legal issues over that because we've approved minutes. Bobby, are you, you feel? No, I didn't do that. I meant I was trying.
No, what are you saying?
That we've approved minutes that quite possibly we haven't actually gone back and listened to, and
We approve additions to the minutes, we haven't checked them.
Yeah, that's probably, that's probably not a good idea, no.
so we have some comments.
I was listening to
Commissioner Burton. I'm gonna start on this end this time.
What's that?
I'll start on this end this time.
Oh, no, I was looking through, some of the, examples that are given here, and, I got it, well, I am one for minutes do not need to be 15 to 20 pages long, they do not need to be verbatim. They need to be pared down, we need to know what we're voting on, who voted what, and for me, that's plenty for minutes, and if I wanna go back, I do go back on occasion, and I will actually listen to the meeting on YouTube, or listen to, I get the information I need firsthand again, because even though they're typed verbatim by our city clerk, she don't get it all, you know, and she doesn't even get the body language, and sometimes you need the body language for what people are trying to say. So I always go back and if I really need information, that's where I get it, is I go to YouTube and watch the meeting over again. But I think for minutes, for what we need here, I know this is not in front of all of you out there, but the city council synopsis from Ocala is primo. You know, it has everything that you need there. It's very concise, it's very clean. And I think it would be a whole lot easier to do it this way than the way that we're doing it now. So that's my take on it. I think it's wonderful, actually.
Commissioner, do you have? Commissioner Gito, did you have comments?
Yes, well, first of all, the minutes aren't just for us. Charles, I'm sorry. Okay, so Charles's memo says that Robert's Rules of Order says the minutes only have to show the action taken. But we are a municipality. Robert's Rules of Order apply to all different kind of entities. Cities have to take into account that they are municipalities and they serve the public, they're not a private organization. At the last ethics training, minutes were specifically addressed by the attorney from who was hired by the League of Cities to give the training, and he addressed minutes. He suggested that all commissioners read minutes, make sure that they are recorded as being present, and as well, he specifically suggested that minutes give, not that they be verbatim whatsoever, but that they give a context to the actions that are being taken, so that the public and future councils and future staff can go back. He said minutes are used for research sometimes to get background on an issue, and it doesn't have to be long. If you look at the minutes that we had when Deb Wazowitz were here, they were very concise, but they gave a little one sentence sometimes context. Minutes are usually used for research. Our minutes have always had who spoke in public comment, their name and address, and what they spoke on. That is very helpful. You can go back in our minutes and see what issues were brought up by the public. So I think we need to take that into consideration. And my one question is, does the Clerks Association have model minutes that they could provide?
The minutes, I'm sorry, the FACC had, when I asked about the minutes, I took 3 different courses on the minutes, and they all stated what Charles had put in the packet. They don't have per se model minutes because each municipality is different. And they just all go by Robert's Rules of Order, that they're supposed to be action minutes and not what he said, she said minutes.
Right, but they should have some context, and you should understand what the issue is about. I think the Pomona Park minutes do that very well. And I think the minute, as I said, the minutes that we had under Jeff Wasowitz were perfectly fine. I don't think that minutes should be so abbreviated that you can't figure out what happened unless you go back to the recording or video, because that's a very inefficient way to do research. People ought to be able to get a decent summary from looking at the printed minutes, and you owe that to the future, to the people who will be having to deal with these things in the future. So personally, I think our old style minutes were very, very good. And I would like to point out, we would not have pages of corrections if we did not have the narrative style minutes, because if the narrative style minutes are not accurate and are misleading and are not really letting people know what happened, then those have to be changed, and the city commission can't be expected to reduce them down to this size for accuracy. So yes, I think shorter is better. But I don't like the grid style, and I don't like having to just say, put that it happened and then go back to the tape. That's not very helpful for future needs, and that was addressed by the attorney and ethics training.
In the minutes that we approved today, they did have the public speakers
Mhm.
on there.
They all do.
And they were to me, they were easy to read, much easier to read. They were very brief. So we've got to determine where we want to go from here. I mean, there's a legal opinion that was done. Of course, it was done back with, Jim Smith. I forgot I had that when I was looking at this earlier. And it talks about the minutes and that they are to be, I mean, basically in a nutshell, it says, do they need to be verbatim? Well, we've kind of gotten into that point, and for whatever reason, I mean, we backed off of it, and now we've gotten there because then we get here, and then we have all these changes that are things that are added to them.
Okay, we don't need verbatim minutes, and my point is, if the minutes were not, the more extensive minutes are, the more errors there are, and quite frankly, sometimes the minutes are recorded verbatim because I think the person who's writing them is having difficulty making a summary because some of the subject matter is difficult. So I don't think
That's
anyone.
an opinion. Again, that's your opinion, and I have to say also though, and without being, and please, I'm not trying to be. Oftentimes the changes is you want to make sure that you get things that you've said in those minutes, and I do believe, and I'm not going to speak for her, but possibly that's a concern she has. Karen, that she's not getting everything in there that the commissioners might want. So,
Well, let me just be clear, we don't need verbatim minutes. They are easier to deal with if they are not verbatim. And I don't particularly want things in there that I said, except sometimes the way there's a huge paragraph and it does not represent what happened.
Well, as I said, I think this is a very good example. Ocala is a very good example, and let me just, I'm sorry, I can't, so I don't know if we have a copy of Ocala.
yeah, I've got a tally here. I have a tally in mind.
It starts with the call to order, open ceremony, invocation, we said that, pledge of allegiance. The welcome and roll call, who's present, okay, the mayor lists all the council, new employees, so I guess the new employees of the city would be listed under that. And then we go into public notice, very, very quick, for the November 15th, says which meeting it is, and then the proclamations and awards. Presentations, it tells who the presentations were made to, And then public comments, and the public comments gives the person's name, the address, and this particular person commented on animal control services, something that we talked about today. Another person requested an update on a code enforcement case. Goes into public hearings, there was nothing there. But then it starts the second and final reading of ordinances, and this is where, we sometimes up here, we start talking and we just start discussing things, and when you get into a verbatim kind of thing that you're trying to put in the meetings, that's where a lot of mistakes are really kind of made. This is very clean. It says second and final reading of ordinances. So 7A, adopt ordinance 2023-10, amending chapter 62 of the code of ordinances of the city of Ocala, allowing for an additional homestead exemption for certain senior citizens. I think that's good. It's telling you exactly what it is. Presentation was by Tammy so-and-so, introduced by a certain person. The result is adopted.
Okay.
The mover is
Commissioner
Jay.
Burton? Commissioner Burton, what
Yes.
page do you want to share?
Oh, I'm sorry, page 2 of 9. The mover was Jay, he's the person that brings it up, is Jay, the seconder is Kristen, and it says exactly who said I, and in this case, it was, everyone. And then they move on to the next one, adopt ordinance, and so forth, and so on, and they just continue in that order. I think it's clean, I think it says everything you need. And I'm gonna say this, lately I've been doing an awful lot of history and an awful lot of research, with the city, using minutes, not really. I really have been going back to YouTube on certain days and actually, listening through different meetings for different things. The minutes, I kind of use them for, this is the meeting that this was taken or this was spoken at. Then I go back and I listen to it on YouTube. I think this is great. I really do. I think that's just a great way to do it. Gives you everything you really need for the meeting. Because the bottom line is, it's the result that is the important thing. It's the result of what comes after the ordinance is read, after the ordinance is discussed. It's the result. Was it adopted or not? That's the way I feel.
It was the action taken on any of these.
Yes.
Is what it really says. So Commissioner,
All I look at minutes is, it's a legal document. I mean, you can look back and get things done, and I look to them as a radio call log and an officer would make for dispatch. It gives the time of day, a synopsis of what happens, you go to the next thing, you go to get it done. You want to be able to look at these things 3 years from now, and nobody has the memory of it, going, this is what happened. It doesn't have to be verbatim, it's a synopsis of each thing. What she just read, I think, is correct, but it has to be each individual thing that's on the agenda. If you forget something that's on the agenda, you're wrong. It didn't happen, you missed it. Someone looks back and researches and they say, hey, what happened about this vote 3 years ago? If it's not easily available in most circumstances, the agenda, the minutes become legal documents and need to be treated as such. Doesn't need to be word for word, but you need to put down what it is and the highlights of it, almost exactly what you read there. And I don't think any one city's thing is this is Crescent City, we have to have our own set of agendas and our own style of doing it. And to me, you hit the highlights, you get it done, you get it correct, the time, the date, the people who spoke, what it was, you're great, you don't need to write a book.
So moved.
and so, and Karen, you did a very good job with this last one. You really did.
Thank you.
It was very, you can go through it, you know exactly what happened in those minutes from reading through it. And, so anyway, so we need a motion.
I
We
just
have a-
moved one,
You made a motion
yes,
to,
to move what Commissioner Bailey said. That the minutes reflect what happened, and that they be succinct and not verbatim.
okay. We got have a motion, we have a second.
A second, my motion.
We have a motion and a second. Do we have any other discussion? With the understanding, we're gonna keep to this.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, we have a motion, we have a second. All in favor, or Karen, go ahead and do a roll call for me, please.
Commissioner Burton,
Aye.
Commissioner Banks, Commissioner Bailey,
Aye.
Commissioner DeVito,
Aye.
Mayor Myers.
Aye.
I wrote a summary of my, of the
Of your
memo that
minutes?
was in the packet. No,
I got
that's
hands
true
down.
there, yes.
Here you go.
And I just wanted to say, I'm glad that we made some decision, I'm glad we discussed it. But I think this could have been resolved 6 months to a year ago. It really should not be a burden that falls onto the commission, and I've raised this many times.
Okay, thank you.
I don't have a copy of that.
Okay, we're gonna move on to,
Mayor, the next item is surplusing the city dump truck. This is a dump truck we have that brakes went out on it, it's sitting for a very long time in the yard. We decided to get it, told the guys to get it fixed, and so we had to tow it to the land to repair. And the repairs are about $10,000. So first off, Keith had, well, let's fix it and sell it, get our money back. And then realized, oh, let's just sell it as is. So we did have to put some calipers on it, it blocked up, put us down there, so they're bringing it back. And our request is to, if you approve surplusing it, we'll sell it. And some of them will come back to you, we'll probably look at just like an F-450, size of Keith's truck. It's something that everybody can drive, and maybe a dump bed on the back or a stake bed, a flat bed, so we could get more use. Apparently, even when the truck worked, we didn't use the dump truck very often.
Right, so I move that we authorize the city manager to surplus the city dump truck, the 2004 Sterling Astera.
I got a second. We have a proper motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Then we're gonna go to the Cinco de Mayo because we took care of the gas purchase at the beginning of the meeting.
Yes, this item is coming back to you because they moved the event. You approved it previously on the west end of Central Avenue. They want to move it to the park, so they have shade, electricity is available, bathrooms are there and so forth. So it's the same event, just moved over to the park. So I told them we need to come back and for you to approve the availability of alcohol at that event.
Commissioners? We have a motion to accept this.
I'll make a motion to
approve this.
accept it. To sell. To sell,
We have a motion and a second, and this moves it over to Eagle Line Park, right?
Yes.
Okay, a motion and a second. Do we have any discussion, commissioners?
I have some comments on this motion. So this is by the Downtown Partnership. I do not understand how continual events in the park that draw people away from the businesses, particularly on Cinco de Mayo when people eat and drink, really furthers the goal of promoting businesses downtown. I think it has the opposite effect. I do not think it's a good idea to sell alcohol in the park. I think alcohol should be sold at the businesses that normally sell it. And as well, I noticed that one of the problems is there's no shade on Central Avenue. I would suggest that the city address that issue of creating shade on Central Avenue, because if it's a problem now, it's gonna be a problem in the future. And as well, I think the city needs to address the issue of, I think in our land use, our code redevelopment, we discussed the issue of tree abuse. The city seems to be working very hard on reducing the future amount of shade that we're gonna have in Eagle Lions Park. So just, this raises a lot of issues. And I don't see this as promoting our businesses. I don't understand why they couldn't redesign it to involve the businesses and have the Cinco de Mayo celebration actually help them. But that's not what they did.
Well, it is involving the Mexican restaurants to participate. They were very encouraged by David Ed and how they're participating in this event. The important thing on this event is to get it off the ground. This is the first year. My hope is that it will grow. We move it over to Central Avenue. But then the trees that we are planting, the crepe myrtles, will become shade trees in the future. We are addressing the shade on Central. In this event, I think both El Amigos and Baja Taco would disagree that this isn't contributing to them. They're right on site almost. So it's a good event. It's going to get off the ground. It's going to grow. This is the inaugural year. And this event, I believe, like Day of the Dead, will draw people from the region into the downtown, and they'll discover the other businesses that are here, and it'll be a benefit long term. But we've got to get that first one going and get the excitement going and get it off the ground.
And we do have one question of the city manager. So when we have events, are we measuring the business activity in the rest of the business district?
No, I don't. Not to my knowledge, we're not. We're right now. They're doing the best they can to do the event, to pull off the event.
Right. We're the CRA. So, okay, just asking, we don't.
I will say this in the art, on the art walk that they had, that those restaurants were packed. It did, but there's no other really businesses that are open at that time in the evening. And I will say this, that as we go forward and we encourage these events, and if we want to encourage and bring it to the restaurants, that at 8 o'clock, all the restaurants were no longer serving food, and everybody that was separating from that event that was looking for food was trying to find some place to eat. I mean, everybody was scrambling to try to find some place to eat. And so that's something that as we go forward, encouraging the restaurants to hopefully try to stay.
And if you look at who's open after 5 on a Friday night, the restaurants on 17 are likely to be at the event. And then other than that, it's Mystic Bistro and Three Bananas. Everything else is closed.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure what people would go into. The thrift shop is not open. Cassie's might say open for that event.
It stayed open for the art.
Yeah, she did very well.
I think our CRA manager is asked to speak. Do you want to speak?
I just wanted to mention that the partnership is very, very mindful of supporting our local businesses, so as to the effect that they order alcohol from local businesses, even when it's more expensive, when they can go get it at a wholesale. They pay higher rates for Art Stroll. They obtained the beer from Three Bananas, and they obtained the wine from Mystic Bistro. And we didn't get it from any outside sources. We specifically didn't pull in food vendors so as to push customers into their establishments, and that was a great success. As far as this event, we have local restaurants that we are encouraging to be involved, and El Amigos has just jumped in, and they'll be serving food. It's very hard for some of our restaurants to get involved because they are running their establishments. So we're bringing people downtown to these events with hopes that they're going to flood into the restaurants. And that's why we're not really doing a food event. We don't stock food trucks or food vendors. And for this event specifically, we're getting the alcohol from Pablo at the Parker House. All of the alcohol, the beer, and whatever we purchase will be purchased from him locally. And Palmeras and El Amigos will be serving food. There will be no outside food vendors.
Okay. And
I just have one question.
Yeah. Now, I know that at the Day of the Dead, Palmeras did the food, and they probably served 5 times more people than they would serve, maybe 10, maybe 50 times more people. And they did an outstanding job down there, and a lot of people discovered them through that, who had never gone in there possibly. And
It was a record day for them.
Yeah, so it was a record day. Go ahead, Commissioner Bailey.
The only thing I have to ask is, I know El Amigos has a liquor license and they serve food. How come we're not allowing them to serve the beer to generate the funds that's supposed to be done instead of the downtown partnership?
They're only allowed to serve alcohol in their premises. They wouldn't be applicable to the park.
But they can apply for the same permit that you do.
So we're applying as a nonprofit organization, and we're allowed 12 per annum.
Pardon?
We're allowed 12 special event or alcohol permit, 1 day use permits. It's different from establishment to apply to do it offsite. It's not connected to their structure.
They'd have to have a catering license to.
They can get an external picnic license to do the same thing. I understand.
But it has to be contiguous to their establishment, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Can't be across the road or particularly a state highway.
I'm not
Maybe
sure.
we could do that.
I was just asking, because to me, if you're gonna do the benefit of the establishments and stuff, thinking of Milo, they're the ones that should benefit from liquor sales, is
Absolutely.
what I was looking at.
It's been very hard to even, talk them into, serving at this event. They're a limited staff, they're a family, owned and operated business, and they're actually very excited to be on board and happy that we, got them over to the park.
They have great food, I eat there often, so I'm
I
a
need
big
that
fan.
earlier, that's why I was late.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, those funds fund the event as well, they will, and then the partnership makes money, that's even a ripple effect where, and they've got money to do other things after the event. So Alamigos and Palmeiras and all do very well during the event, and then the partnership has funds to continue on and do art events, art activities and beautification and so forth, so it's a win-win.
Okay,
Then I'll make the motion to accept it as is.
okay.
The motion was already-
Motion and a second.
Well, then I won't make that motion.
I think we already voted.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay.
Nay.
Okay, so it's
And next item is, I just need authorization to apply for a Florida Department of State Division of Historical Resources small matching grant. It's $50,000, up to $50,000. We won't have to match it as a Florida Main Street community and a Ready community. I don't know, it's going to be to update our historic survey. We have an old one that needs updating, and we get a consultant to come in and do that and to lead us, hopefully lead us through the certified local government process. So in addition to that, I'm asking for your approval. I'm encouraging the concerned citizens to apply for a planning grant, like we talked about earlier, for the New Moon Lodge. But since we own it, I need to have in the minutes reflected that we gave permission for them to apply for a grant that would apply to our property.
So you need two motions? You need a motion allowing them to do
I
that,
do.
and a motion for
Motion
them to apply.
to, yeah, for us to apply and a motion then to apply to our property.
Okay. Commissioners, I need a motion. The first motion is for him to be able to apply for the, Ready grant. I mean, for the
No,
small matching.
small matching grant.
Small matching grant.
Right, so moved.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, now we need one, to allow I'm sorry, the concerned citizens, it's getting late, it's a long day today, concerned citizens to, apply for the grant.
I so move.
Okay, Charles, do you need specific language in that, or just
Yeah, I would just have the motion to approve for a grant for the New Moon Lodge,
for the new one?
For the small matching grant.
for the small matching grant.
Okay.
Grant with New Moon Lodge.
Okay. We have a second.
I'll second.
And we have a motion and a second by Commissioner Burton.
Thank
Any
you.
discussion? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. You want to go into your city manager?
Yes, first I want to mention that we did execute the lease with the county for the county annex building, so that's done. I have a couple things I put in here just to get your sense from the commission. It's not a decision point, but had a number of people ask about chickens. And I've been in communities where they pass an ordinance that allows hens, and it's very specific. It'll be like you can get up to 6 hens and a cage that's of these dimensions, and you can't leave your yard. They have to be in the coop at night.
Only roosters.
No roosters.
No roosters.
So I want to see if there's an interest, I can bring you back those ordinances to allow for chickens, so people can have eggs and have a limited amount of chickens in the city.
I would like to see that, but maybe some people would like that stuff.
Yeah, I've had several people ask me
That'd be
about it too,
fun.
especially with the price of eggs right now.
Yeah, man, we need somebody.
It's still less than $1 an egg.
Oh,
Very cheap food.
Okay. So
Okay, the other item was, been looking into, noticed some other cities have switched to a 4-day work week. And in their case, they're often closed
City Hall's closed Friday, Saturday, Sunday. What I was looking at was, by shifting our workers a little bit, we're still open 5 days a week, but for 10 hours a day. So the public will be able to come in and pay the bill until 6 p.m. or as early as 7 a.m. So some of our folks would work Monday through Thursday, some would work Tuesday through Friday. So the City Hall would remain open, but we could offer a 3-day weekend to our employees. Wouldn't work for the employees in the field, and many of them were very much opposed to it. So you imagine the summer it'd be a 10-hour day, and in the winter part of your day would be in the dark, so it wouldn't make much sense. But it's something I'm still considering and researching, but I wanted to see if the commission felt strongly one way or the other. It would not, in fact, it would improve our availability to the public rather than reduce it.
Well, I think that's where you just, it's my customer service. To be able to really serve the customers.
The window would be open 10 hours a day, 5 days a week. Currently, it's open 40 hours a week. We'd be open 50 hours a week if we did this.
But 2 days a week, you have staff.
Well, for instance, in utility billing, there are 3 people in the office. The meter reader would stay on the 40-hour schedule. So Monday through Friday, one person would man the window, would occupy the window, and then they would shift. So there'd always be at least 2 people in the office, but most of the week there'd be 3 people. But on Mondays and Fridays, there would just be 2 instead of 3.
So how do we discern what staff paid for 5-day work week, what staff paid?
Yeah, most of the people out in the field, the labor positions, the water and sewer plants, they were interested in the 10-hour days. But most would be City Hall staff, finance department, utility billing.
They understand though that everybody is still, I mean, so those in the field wouldn't say, well, I don't want to work 4 days a week. They would understand that everybody still has to work 40 hours.
They'd be here at 7 a.m. and
Yeah.
it'd be 10 hours, 4 10-hour days.
Yeah. So from a morale standpoint, you know, that they would have that understanding there.
Do you know any other municipalities that are doing this already?
The ones that I know of, and Karen may know of some, they're actually closing on Friday. So the City Hall's only open 4 days a week, but it's 10 hours a day. My thought was we could still be open 5 days a week.
Those cities are short of help or?
No, they just have everyone, they just want to give everyone a 3-day weekend.
And I've seen news, they've had a lot on the news lately that companies are doing this from a morale standpoint.
Yeah, you know, from experience, I've worked before 10-hour days, great. Even greater for me was the 12-hour days. Okay, where it was 3 on, 4 off. I mean, so you could, when you took your vacation, you could really take, you know, combine it and really have a very good vacation. But the 10-4 was probably my favorite. They have a 3-day weekend.
Can I add?
For 25 years.
Yes.
Yes, I have a request.
Yeah.
Okay, we are coming up on the 10 o'clock hour.
Yes, we are.
This is not on the agenda, but the city manager sent to us in the last several weeks a copy of an interlocal agreement that we have with the school district. Today, he sent to us a summary of the rules that would have to be followed if the school middle school site is to be redeveloped. And as well, I asked our city attorney with respect to the interlocal agreement, whether this.
I'm gonna call a point of order right now, because we're gonna finish this up, and then we're gonna get through there. I think he has a few more things that we need to get through this. That's gonna take a little more time, so we're gonna have to address that, so let us get through this.
Okay, well, are we
right now, so.
going to extend, because frankly, the school issue is very time sensitive. The issue that the city manager is bringing up is largely within his purview as city manager.
Okay.
And it is not urgent.
But,
I'll finish this up.
yes, please do.
This item I need to bring to your attention. This is, I mentioned, another stormwater issue on Lake Avenue. So just, this is the, everybody calls it the log cabin house. And between the two houses, there is a stormwater pipe that goes from the street inlet here and lets out into the lake. And this arrow, you can see a red arrow right about in here somewhere along the fence. It's way up here. You can begin to see the collapse. So actually on the other side of the fence, it's eroded away. It switches over to this side. This is the southern property. Erodes away until when you get out to their shed. This is actually the concrete that held up the fence posts. It's all washed away all the way out to the water. This is the pipe that actually comes out into the lake. Water very high this day. So it's eroded. So what it looks like is we ran a camera through the pipe. Pipe's in great shape, but it looks like at every joint it leaks. And I imagine there's a volume of water building up, especially during a heavy rain event, that just over time has washed this out. And the owner said that back when it was just a little bit back in here, she began complaining about this a couple of years ago. It was not addressed, and now it has gotten to the point where it has washed out the damage. So the solution is we can line the pipe with another pipe, which would be very expensive, close to $100,000, or we can go in and grout each joint. They have to block off the pipe, go in there clean, and then grout. And we're getting bids right now. The first bid came in at about $21,000 to do this. So we're trying to get some competing bids. I'm going to bring that back to you. But again, it's something we need to handle. This is just getting worse and worse. They've actually cordoned off both sides of this property. The log cabin is an Airbnb, so there are guests coming and going. So they tried to cordon this off. The property owner here said her landscaper, the tractor has fallen into this thing a couple times. It's just getting bigger and bigger over time. So
What is that pipe drain?
this is stormwater off the road.
Yeah, right out the road. It's right at the bottom too.
Everything on the lake,
Water
it
that
flows
goes
down
there.
because we have another problem still going on in Florida.
The other property I came to recently was up here, Mr. Tatum's property.
Now, where are we with that? Do we have everything we need to get that started, or where?
We have the design, you approve the design, looking for funding.
Okay.
So this is,
Is that what's gonna happen with this? We're gonna have a design and then we're gonna look for funding?
no, this we have a solution where we would grout the pipe.
Okay.
And I'll come back to you with multiple bids and ask you for approval, and we'll have to, I'll have a recommendation of where do we pay for that.
What's the chances of that grouting? I've done a little bit of stuff like that before with silos. What's the chance of that having to do that relatively quick again after that?
I don't know, I have to find out more about it. It's what we're doing to the sewer line on the west side. They killed the roots, and now they're regrouting that sewer pipe as well.
Is it more on one there?
Yes, the one on the
Let's see, that time I was. Okay.
So I'm gonna bring that back to you. And last thing, just real quick, I want to show you a couple of things that have been going on. We have repaired the bleachers at the soccer field, at the basketball court on both sides. All the bleachers are very nice. These are the new landscaping, these are the pots. This segment again is our sort of our pilot project. I reapplied for that Kubota grant. Again, I'm trying to get the streetscape money to do more of this, but it looks very nice. And then I want to show you we did trim back the variety, so that's something we need to do each year. Sienna is getting ready to bloom. I'm really hoping with rains it's going to bloom. The palladiums are coming up in front of the annex, so I just want to show you those. And also the pole barn is nearly 100% complete. This is the new barn you approved. We'll be able to keep our equipment out of the weather in the future. So.
And the medians are really looking nice.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I was coming up 17 the other day saying how nice they.
Yeah, I mean, the chopping down and variety really looked all right. I was really worried it would be kind of raw, but they're getting ready. They're coming back, and that'll be beautiful when they come back.
I'm so happy you found somebody that work out there to keep you from getting that.
Kevin and Karen are doing an awesome
They're
job.
doing an awesome
Mhm.
job. I mean, they be out there.
They're very hard workers.
They
They're doing a great
really
job.
are.
That's all I have.
And we got the bumpers installed, did you want to say that?
The speed bumps?
No, the extra beach.
Oh, yes, I forgot. Today they put the rope out, the buoys, the rope to define the swim area. we need to tweak it a little bit, where it's staked in the ground, we need to put up posts and signs. It's a swim area and then something for the boat.
Where's that at?
Next to Beach Park, where you walk along the park.
I didn't see that.
It's just before the rain. They got it finished and they need to, Jason did it with the fireboat, and we need to adjust the way it's chained and so forth, but it's been a
That's
couple
what the
years.
fire department stuff was out there for today.
Yeah, they were helping us out to anchor the corner, so that's another good. I have a picture they sent me, but you can't really see the buoy,
Okay.
flotations in the water.
Bobby?
Oh,
You don't have anything? Okay. Okay, Commissioner Vito.
Well, actually, I was thinking this should be under the city manager's time on the agenda. It's very important. Apparently, there is an interlocal agreement that we have with the school district. Charles sent it out to all of us. And it's very clear that the school district is supposed to meet on a regular basis with the cities in Putnam County when they plan schools and when they redevelop schools. This has not been done. There's all kinds of provisions in there that would have created a very different scenario for what is happening both at Middleton Burning and Miller Middle School. So I asked Bobby whether the agreement is still enforceable, and Bobby's email to me says that he got the city manager, well, it says, according to the agreement, I'm sorry, I'm just reading this, we need to notify the school board that they are in default, and then the procedures and Florida statutes apply as to governmental conflict resolution. Can you elaborate on that, Bobby?
No, I'm not prepared to right now.
Pardon?
I'm not prepared to, I mean, and it's like arbitration, we have to hire an arbitrator and try to settle our differences.
I remember when we brought that up to the school board, the gentleman basically told us it worked both ways, and we didn't get a hold of them, and they didn't get a hold of us, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I think that is what it said.
It spells out some committees that would be formed and, some quarterly meetings, some annual meetings. I think Mr. Boland's point,
It wasn't that they were trying to hide anything, we didn't know about it, they were aware that administration changes, we all discussed it.
Okay, so the point is, it exists, and it gives very specific, considerations that are to be looked into. When you are planning a new school, coordinating with, the school district, coordinating with the towns, about, linking facilities and as well, how the neighborhoods will be impacted.
Okay, that's,
So should we not be looking into this? There are several different steps. Obviously, you can't go back and recreate meetings that didn't occur in the past, but there are very specific meetings as to planning a school.
okay, we've got 2 minutes. Unless I have a motion to extend this meeting for the commissioner, but, is this something that we need to do? Bobby, should we do it through a workshop and discuss it? Should we have a special meeting on it?
I can just reach out to Mr. Bowling and schedule whatever meetings, the meetings that are listed on there. Some of them, actually, I think the mayor is noted as calling a meeting. Some of the school board is supposed to have a meeting. We're supposed to have a meeting if we have new development, so they know what's going on in the city. We just haven't had new development. So, I'll look at it and see if there's a meeting we need to call per the agreement and get that started.
Would us hiring an arbitrator, Bobby, in your opinion, change the outcome of them, but the school or taking it up or down?
I don't think I can, I wouldn't want to comment on that, I don't know.
You know, I read through that, and it seems like that whole thing is just meeting intensive. Meeting, all kinds of them in there. And that could be why all of a sudden we lost track of it, because people do change.
10 o'clock.
Yes.
So
Well, actually, I would like us to extend 10 minutes, please.
you're gonna have to make a motion, you're gonna have to get it approved.
Okay, I move that we extend the meeting for 10 minutes to give commissioners an opportunity to raise their concerns, of which I have 2.
Do I have a second? Sorry, motion failed.
Then I would like to say something that is extremely important. The commission, just hold on, Mayor, please.
I would like to
I'm
make a
going-
motion to adjourn.
I can motion to adjourn in a second.
Well, I'm going to point out to y'all that we take up time in our meetings and we do not allow commissioners to bring up their own issues, including leaving time for the scheduling of meetings. Commissioners are not supposed to talk to each other, and they are not supposed to communicate through the city manager, which is what we wind up doing. We need to allow time
Okay.
for city commissioners to speak. Otherwise, we are coming very close to
I have a
violating the
motion
sunshine
and
law.
I have a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Meeting adjourned. Thank you very much.
Well, I would just say, this is embarrassing. We are talking.
No, we have to, we set the time. We set the time, and we all have to be cognizant of that, and
Yes,
this is an
and that-
example of what happens.
And that includes the city manager, and you have to be cognizant of what is important and what is not important.